everyone. Welcome to the Fall 2020 University of Calgary Graduate Student Orientation, also known as GradO. My name is Tennille Chandro, and I'm the president of the Graduate Students Association, also known as the GSA. Now, this is our first ever virtual GradO. These are some exciting times working in new environments, and I'm so pleased to be here today to connect with all of you and let you all know a little bit more about what it's like to be a graduate student at the University of Calgary. Please note that this session, including the chat and Q&A, will be recorded and shared with all of those who are registered for GradO. Now, as you can see from our agenda, we have a very full and engaging session over the next few hours. We will start with welcome and introductions by some of our University of Calgary senior leadership and follow it up with a lot of really important information to help set you up for success during your time as a graduate student here at the university. Course-based graduate students, you'll be very interested in the information up to and including the section on resources. We've incorporated a short break after the resource section to stretch your legs and ask questions if you have them. After the break, we will be talking about the information that is relevant to thesis-based graduate students, but everyone is welcome to stay during the whole event. So as part of the University of Calgary's Indigenous strategy, the university has committed to developing a campus community that understands the histories and worldviews of Indigenous people and the importance of the connection to land. As students of the Faculty of Graduate Studies, you are all part of a university community that is privileged to be situated on the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, which includes the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprising of the Siksika, Piikani, and Kainai First Nations, as well as the Tsuut'ina First Nations and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. We are so fortunate to have Elder Carrie Moore here today, joining us to offer a smudge and blessing. Elder Carrie Moore is Cree Métis and originally from the Treaty 6 territory in Saskatchewan, but for the last 46 years, her home has been in Treaty 7 territory. Carrie is an accepted and acknowledged elder and knowledge keeper in both Treaty 6 and Treaty 7 territory. Carrie is a psychotherapist specializing in intergenerational trauma and grief. She is also a sessional instructor with the Faculty of Social Work and an elder with the Circle of Advisors for the University of Calgary. We are honored that she will offer a smudge and blessing to bring us into this new year and season in a good way. Now, Carrie, I would like to present you with this gift of blanket and tobacco as a thank you for leading us through the smudge and blessing to open up this new chapter, season, and academic year. As we are working virtually, I will be sure to send this to you as soon as possible. I will now pass it over to you, Elder Carrie, for the smudge and blessing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tennille. I'm so very honored to be here with all of you. What an exciting beginning. It's nice to have new beginnings in our life since we've been kind of stuck in this COVID for a while in isolation. And so a lot of us are carrying a lot of that fear around what's happening, what's next. And I want to tell you that that's totally normal. There's nothing wrong with you. We carry fight, flee, freeze whenever new challenges we are faced with. All human beings do. And I'm really, really honored to come to you to offer this blessing. I am Cree Métis. I am accepted here in this territory. I've lived here for 47 years. My teacher was my grandmother, Ethel Bear, from Saskatchewan, where I am right now. I'm coming to you from Saskatchewan, near where my family reserve of Muscadet is. I'm also an elder with Area 3 Métis Nation. And so I'm very happy to offer this blessing to you. So please know that you don't have to pray if prayer is not something that you would do. Just take a breath and think of something good that you want in your life. Part of what I do when I do a blessing is I pray, because that's just where I'm coming from. It's part of our spirit. I'm trying to get deep into our spirit. So I do smudging every day, and we begin every meeting. We begin all our ceremonies with smudge. Smudge is very important to us as Indigenous people because of what smudge offers us is the ability for us to come down into spirit, where we carry our values. And so let me just tell you a short little story, because I always think it's better to understand why we smudge rather than let's just smudge and begin this meeting. I know it's sort of like a starting of something, but it's much deeper than that. And I'm going to tell you this story that my grandmother told me. And it's told in two ways. One, you will hear the Christian teachings, and one, you will hear the traditional Cree teachings, because of where my grandmother came from in her life. And so I have to tell it exactly that way, because we don't add, change, or delete anything from the things that are passed down to us. So let me just tell you this story that might explain why we smudge. For all of you that are joining us from so many places in the world, how wonderful. And I know that some of you might be coming from very traditional places as well, where you begin everything from spirit. We are four-dimensional beings: spiritual, emotional, physical, and cognitive. Unfortunately, we've all been colonized as human beings everywhere we come from, and often we are disconnected from spirit. We're not allowed to express ourselves through our emotions, and we become two-dimensional people, physical and cognitive. So one of the things you need to know about all Indigenous people everywhere in the world, we are unique to where we come from. We're unique with our medicines, we're unique with our languages, we're unique with how we do things. But we have a protocol that is almost identical everywhere in the world. So I am bringing to you my Cree Métis teachings, but know that people will use different medicines. They will speak in different languages here too. We are just really, really happy that you're not intimidated to know that when you come from somewhere else, you still come from Mother Earth. That's what connects all of us as human beings. We're all the same species after all, right? So let me tell you this short story. Long ago, Creator created the universe and all of those things in the universe: the sun, the moon, the stars, those places in between, the earth, the trees, the animals, the plants, the water, everything in the universe Creator created and gave all of those things spirit. And spirit was the place to know who you are. So deep within us, we carry spirit. It is not a religious thing. Spirit we carry within ourselves, just like everything else. And when you're in your spirit, you know who you are. Unfortunately, the two-leggeds forget who they are sometimes. So we go back to Mother Earth to have her remind us. So Creator gave all of those things in the universe, brought them together in a circle so they could look at each other. Because when you're looking at each other, you're accountable and responsible to each other. You're respectful. And when you're sitting in that circle looking at each other, you listen and you see and you feel. You don't just think. And so we engage all of those emotions. And Creator gave all of those things in the universe gifts and spirit. And Creator said to all of those things, another species will be brought here. And that species will be called human beings. And they will be scattered throughout this earth. And all of you will teach them, help them remember who they are, and offer them the gifts so they can survive in this world. You will be related to them. Treat them like your relatives. And the human beings will learn to treat you like their relatives, so that you can work together with that respect and that reciprocity. So what you have to help the two-leggeds, they will use in a good way. So one of those things, one of those beautiful plants sitting in that circle was the tobacco plant. And the little tobacco plant said to Creator, I will give myself to the two-leggeds so they can begin with me. And I will offer respect, my respect that I carry, I will offer to the two-leggeds so they will remember respect. And when they use that tobacco, to pick the plants, to gather that water, to hunt, to take those things from the earth because we want them to have them, to learn. They will always offer tobacco first as a sign of respect. And then we can give them what they need. And they will take it in a good way and use it the way it is intended. So I thank you very much for that tobacco, because you offer me tobacco and I can offer you my respect and my teachings, knowing that you will take it in a good way. And that is why we always begin with tobacco when we're asking for a knowledge keeper or an elder to come to speak with you. So when I take that tobacco, I also use it for other things. When I'm gathering sage, for example, which is one of the medicines here in this territory, remember, everybody has their own medicines. Everybody comes from different territories where different medicines grow. And so when I gather that medicine, I put that tobacco down and I say to that plant or that water or whatever I'm gathering, thank you. I ask that you come with me to help me. And that little plant was there in that circle when the universe was created. And she or he remembers what that tobacco was for. And they say to me, ah, yes. And they give me what I need. So know that today I am using sage, which is the female medicine. And sage grows abundantly here in this territory. And we pick it in the right way. We put that tobacco down. We sing the song that goes with this medicine, and we ask it to come with us, and know that this medicine was picked in the right way. She is here to help us, and we know that because when I light her, you will see her smoke rising, and that smoke is her essence. And we reach in and we take that tobacco, take that sage smoke, and we put it over us, and we get rid of everything that is not coming from spirit, which are the values that we carry. So this is why we smudge. We do not just smudge to smudge and begin a meeting. We do that. Yes, that's why we do that. We begin every meeting this way. We do this so we come down into our spirit, which is not a religious place. It is something that's part of our body. We are four-dimensional. So when I smudge, everybody take that breath. Everywhere, from wherever you are in the world. And how wonderful it is to have so many of you everywhere in the world joining us as graduate students, as staff, as helpers, as supporters, as all of the things that we're doing. We're doing this together. One thing to remember is we are all human beings. It doesn't matter where we come from. We are all human beings. And so we all have similar traits, and we all have the abilities to be in spirit. But it takes Mother Earth to teach us about our values. So when I light the smudge today, the sage that we picked in the right way, and I'm going to get you to take that deep breath, because we carry our spirit deep within our belly button, where we're attached to our mothers. My grandmother used to say, there's a reason why you're attached to your mothers from your belly button, because Creator wants you to think in your spirit, not in your head. And I know a lot of you will understand this, is that sometimes our heads play tricks on us. Sometimes our hearts play tricks on us. Our spirit will never play tricks on us. Our spirit is where we find hope, purpose, and peace. It is who we are. So human beings are coming from that love and that kindness, that compassion, that honesty and respect, that accountability and responsibility, and all of the other values that you hear and that you are given and you are told about and you're taught about as human beings. We all carry those values. That is what makes us all human. So trauma gets in the way and challenges get in the way. And when we are not in spirit, we tend to end up in the middle of our brain, which is all about fight, flee, freeze, anger, anxiety, and depression. So if you're feeling that in COVID, If you're feeling that because you're starting out on a new journey, please know that there's nothing wrong with you. Something is happening, and we are going to get through this. Maybe your ancestors lived really challenging lives and they passed down those feelings to you, because we know that whatever we do today will affect the next 7 generations. Remember that. So what we are doing today is opening the doors for possibilities and a future. Forget your spirit. When you find that you are challenged, take that breath. This is not spirit. Come down into your spirit. Connect to who you are. Remember who you are, you carry in your spirit, not in your head. And you will get through this. And we will get through this together. Because look at the support you have. Look at all the people from all over the world that are here to help you and support you. You are not in isolation. You have all these people around you that are there. All you have to do is ask and reach out. But more important, find how to connect to your spirit. Because if you're not using your culture to do that, we use our culture to do that, and you may do it as well through your culture. But we find other ways to connect to spirit. Maybe you ride horses. Maybe you like art. Maybe you like food. Whatever you do, that gets you out of your head and into that place. I call it the zone. Know that you are okay. Know that nobody can control you when you're in spirit. We know that. When you are in your spirit, you remember who you are, which is the beautiful human being that you are, and you are here to make a difference. All of you, all of us, in your own way, with your own gifts. And when you're feeling anger, anxious, or depressed, it's only because you've forgotten who you are for a moment. So find your way back. So I'm going to smudge today, because this is how we do this in our culture here in Canada. And I'm using sage, which is the female medicine, because we begin with the female medicine. We sometimes use sweetgrass in this territory as well. And this sage plant was picked in the right way. And this sage plant is eager to meet you. So breathe in, come down into your spirit. And she's looking for you. And I know she can work her magic towards you. So do not think you are alone, because she sees you, she hears you, she smells you, just like you, just like I can smell her. I wish you could smell her. So we smudge, reach in and just smudge wherever you are, reach into the smoke and bring her to you. And this is about getting rid of all of those things off our body that are not coming from spirit. So the anxiousness that you might feel today, this will take that away. Take that breath. And I'm honored to offer this blessing to you. So pray in your own way, in your own language. Or remember, if prayer is not something that you do, that's okay. Just go into that place and think about something good you want to give to yourself and the universe today. And I will offer this blessing to you. I'm so grateful on behalf of the University of Calgary to do this. I'm just so grateful that we can still connect via Zoom. And so this blessing is for all of you to start in a good way, to come down into your spirit so that you know who you are. You're just as good as everyone else. You're here for a reason. Creator, giver of all life, grandmothers and grandfathers of all 4 directions, Mother Earth. Nidisiakasom, wakan mihigana kakasqueo, nitana komuksanaki. I am Carrie Moore, We thank you for this beautiful day, Creator, wherever we may be. We thank you, Creator, for the beginning of a new year in our education. We ask that there will be supports and resources always there for us when we need them. We ask for blessings upon us so that when we are having challenges in our lives, we will know how to get into our spirit, and we will find those people to help us stay in our spirit. We ask, Creator, that our challenges will be gentle, and that you help us throughout this year do what we need to do and finish what we need to do, and give us the courage to face what we need to face. We ask that you watch over our families while we're absent from them. We ask that they be surrounded by love and kindness. We ask, Creator, that you watch over those that may be sick, that they will feel better today, that they will get better. We ask, Creator, that COVID will be gentle and not hurt us, and we'll go to sleep, and that we will get through this without getting sick. We will get through this with supports and resources there. We ask, Creator, that you continue to guide us and protect us and bless us and keep us safe no matter where we are, no matter what we are doing. We're truly grateful, Creator, for all of the people around us and for the University of Calgary and for all of the wonderful staff and supports. We ask that they will get the resources and supports that they need as well. Help us, Creator, today. Let this be the first day of the rest of this year. Let us be in spirit and know how to be in spirit. And may there be support there to help us when we need them most. Miigwech. Hi, hi, hi. Amen. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me for the blessing. I wish you many blessings. I'm very proud of all of you and very excited for your journey. And I hope I get to meet some of you along the way. One day we will meet in person. Please feel free to send me an email if you wish to ask any questions. I know the time together is short, but I'm happy to answer your questions. Many blessings to all of you. Thank you.
Elder Carrie Moore, wow, that was incredible. On behalf of all students, staff, and faculty, thank you again for the smudge blessing. We are excited to start this year and season in a good way. It is my pleasure to now welcome Dr. Drew Marshall, the University of Calgary Provost and Vice President Academic of the University of Calgary since 2011. Dr. Marshall holds a Bachelor of Physical Education with distinction from the University of Manitoba and a Master of Science and PhD in Exercise Physiology from the University of Alberta. She has received numerous awards and distinctions and is recognized as one of Canada's most recognized and respected experts in the field of exercise physiology, where she focuses her research on obesity in children. Dr. Marshall has worked in the Alberta post-secondary sector for 26 years and is regarded as one of Canada's most experienced academic leaders and administrators. Dr. Marshall, I will now hand the webinar over to you to say a few words of welcome to our incoming graduate students.
Well, thanks, Tennille, and thanks for inviting me today. And I really also want to thank Elder Carrie. That was just a spectacular blessing and smudge ceremony, and what a wonderful way for us to start this morning and to ground us all as we start new journeys at the start of the school term. Really fantastic. I want to say to the students, it's fantastic to see over 500 people. I think we have 506 participants now. Really so great to see and have you all here. This is so unusual in the 9 years that I've been here. This is definitely the first graduate orientation we've done online. But it's also wonderful that we can do something like this online. And I do want to say, while I'm excited to have you all here, it's a very odd time to be starting graduate education right in the middle of a global pandemic. And I know many of you are worried about this. I know some of you will be quarantining. Some of our new international students will be quarantining and listening to this while you're quarantining. Others of you will be in residence and have already finished that. Some of you will have been on campus for a while, and others of you will just have started your journey from within Canada or will be starting that journey shortly. Regardless of where you come from, I want to tell you that there has been a complete and large team of people that have been working on the COVID-19 pandemic. Our crisis management team and our emergency operations group has been working since mid-March on your behalf to ensure that campus can be a safe space for you to be on. Some of you I know will work remotely while others will be face-to-face. Regardless of how you come to be, we hope that you can have a wonderful experience while you're here. And if I could have 2 messages around COVID, they would be this. All of you know the critical pieces that you have to do from a health perspective in terms of washing hands, social distancing, ensuring that you're wearing a face mask to prevent transmission, not to go to events that are large without the opportunity to socially distance, to make sure if you are going to smaller events that you're practicing all of the health hygiene that we do. But here are my 2 major messages. 1, during a time like this, we have a collective responsibility to take care of one another and a respect for one another in terms of wearing a mask and that type of thing. And if you don't have one, we have 2 to provide you when you arrive on campus. And the second thing is you have an individual responsibility to take care of yourself. So I just encourage you to keep those 2 things in mind while you're on our campus. I also want to say you're coming here at a really exciting time for the University of Calgary. Well, we've had a tremendous amount of growth over the past decade with our Eyes High strategy. Our president, Ed McCauley, announced a new vision, his vision in June of this year called Growth Through Focus. You will get an opportunity firsthand to be part of the energy of a new strategy when it comes in and for engaging in all of the opportunities around that new strategy. So stay tuned for that. I think it's really exciting from a graduate student perspective because we do intend on increasing the number of graduate students on campus, close to doubling. So we have just over 6,000 students now, and by the end of the Growth Through Focus time period, we will have over 10,000. And the ratio of graduate students to undergrad will increase, and it will allow us to have more of a phenotype of the top 20 world-class institutions. You've come to a really exciting institution, one of the top 200 institutions in the world, a young, dynamic place, one of the top golden age universities in North America and the world. This is a ranking for those institutions that are under 75 years of age. So young, dynamic, enterprising, and I know that you've chosen to come here, so we're really pleased to welcome you. There are about 1,500 of you that are brand new to campus this year, and as I say, not only welcome, but thank you for choosing the University of Calgary, because we know all of you would have had a choice in where to go. You know, graduate studies, it's a while since I was a graduate student, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. I still consider it to be one of the most fun, challenging, and exciting times of my life. It's a real opportunity, and trust me, in hindsight, looking back over my career, one of the few times in your life when you really get a chance to focus on things that are important to you and that you're passionate about. And it's also an opportunity for us as an institution to be pushed by new young scholars as you push the boundaries of your field. And I'm really going to encourage you to do that. And I hope this is a place that you're able to do that at. There are many, many opportunities for you on campus in Calgary and in the surrounding areas. And Some of these, of course, in this time are going to be virtual, but there are opportunities for you to experience the natural environment. We have a beautiful natural environment around Calgary. If this is your first time to the city, you know, you can go up into the library and see the mountains from some of the office space there. They are only a short drive away. Carrie talked to you, Elder Carrie talked to you about grounding through breath. Another way to ground is to be on the land and visit the land. And I would really encourage you to take advantage of that while you're in Calgary. You know, I talked to you about that focus piece, and it is one of the few times in your life you're going to be able to do that. And I'll say there's a double-edged sword of doing that. You become really intense as an individual, and you will lose sight sometimes of other things that might be important. And so I'm going to encourage you really to take care of your mental health. Here at the university, we have an excellent mental health strategy, and all kinds of supports are set up for you to take advantage of. Please, if you find yourself isolating yourself, that's a sign that the stress may be getting to you. Put a hand up, reach out for support. There are all kinds of people to support you on campus. Go to the Mental Health Strategy website. You'll see all kinds of opportunities there. Visit your GSA. These are superb advocates for you, or the Faculty of Graduate Studies for any of the resources they have. If you see a colleague struggling, please reach out for a conversation. And if you can, try and get people some help when they really, really need it. So self-help in the first instance, but also be a supportive member of the community to ensure that people get the help they need. This is part of the culture and the community of support that we've tried to create at the University of Calgary through our mental health strategy. And it really is one piece that has differentiated us. I also want to talk about another part of our culture, and that's that we have a really strong commitment to equity and diversity and inclusion. And it's too bad that we couldn't have all 500 of you on the screen, because I know you would see the diversity of the population just by looking at one another. Calgary is the third most diverse city in Canada. The University of Calgary is a reflection of that diversity and more. And we hope that all of you, regardless of color, creed, religion, sexuality, or culture, feel welcome here at the University of Calgary, and that you really find a home here while you are studying. The experience that you are about to embark on is going to be as fulfilling as you make it. You have all the tools at your disposal to make this a great experience, and I hope you take advantage of every single one of them. You've had a chance to meet Tennille. I hope you get a chance to meet her in person someday. She leads a team of wonderful students who are amongst your strongest advocates on campus. You have one of the best deans on campus in Robin Yates, also an extremely strong advocate for you as a graduate student. And you also have me. Graduate education for me is the lifeblood of an institution. I am a very strong advocate. I'm here to support you. And I hope that we have a chance to meet sometime in the near future. Have a wonderful journey while you're here. Godspeed.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. Some of those points were incredibly hitting home for me. Graduate school is an incredibly challenging yet rewarding time. Usually this orientation, you're in a big gymnasium with all 500 of you, and you can feel the energy, excitement, and nervousness in the room and connect with your peers. So I really encourage you to reach out and utilize the programs and services that UCalgary has to offer to be able to get to know your fellow graduate students. Some of those services are the FGS. So next up, I would like to invite Dr. Robin Yates, Dean and Vice Provost of the Faculty of Graduate Studies. After practicing as a veterinarian in Australia, Dr. Yates completed his PhD and postdoctoral fellowship in biomedical science at Cornell University in the US. He became faculty at the University of Calgary in 2008 with a joint appointment to veterinary medicine and medicine, where he currently leads a research group in the field of immunology. Dr. Yates has been in a leadership role with the Faculty of Graduate Studies since 2015. This February, we were pleased to see him appointed as Dean and Vice Provost of Graduate Studies. Dr. Yates, I invite you to say a few words of welcome to our new graduate students.
Excellent. Thank you, Tennille, and thank you, Drew. We have one of the best provosts in the country and one of the strongest advocates for graduate education. So it's a pleasure to be here at the inaugural virtual orientation. I'm used to doing the orientation in person. This is a new format for everyone here, but I'm pleased to virtually meet you. So on behalf of the Faculty of Graduate Studies, I enthusiastically welcome you to the University of Calgary. So as a graduate student, you joined over 6,000 students pursuing advanced professional and research degrees. So everyone on this Zoom webinar has an undergraduate degree, but the undergraduate experience and the graduate student experience are fundamentally different. So as undergraduate students, we were all net consumers of knowledge. And that's pretty much it. And it's very monotonic. And the value of that degree was really the parchment, the piece of paper. That's what we're all focused on. So not so much with graduate studies. The piece of paper at the end is nice, but the journey towards that piece of paper is where the real value of your degree is. And during this journey, unlike undergraduates, you are not just consumers of knowledge. You're also disseminators of knowledge through contributions to teaching. You're mobilizers of knowledge through interactions with your profession, both here and in your communities. And most importantly, many of you will be creators of knowledge through original research. And the real value is not your transcript or your GPA, but the professional reputation and network that you build, as well as the personal and leadership skills and knowledge that you will gain from outside of the formal curriculum. So I challenge you, everyone here, so every now and then, step back and ask yourself, in addition to my degree, what else am I going to get from this experience? And once you identify these things, go out and get them. And we, FGS and our partners at the University of Calgary, are here to help you achieve these goals through my grad skills workshops, to Student Success Center, career advising, and also if you need a little extra help, confidential advising at Faculty of Graduate Studies or the Wellness Center. And if we don't have what you need, please let us know and ask. So most notably, we strive to equally serve our on-campus and our distance learners. And I know many of you are learning from a distance during this COVID pandemic. So if you are off campus and you want to participate in any of these opportunities, we will make every effort to make that happen. So on behalf of the Faculty of Graduate Studies, your Faculty of Registration, welcome to the University of Calgary.
Great, thank you so much, Robin. So as Robin mentioned, you are all students of the Faculty of Graduate Studies. And as graduate students, you are also members of the University of Calgary Graduate Students Association. So welcome. We are often referred to as the GSA, and we represent you, all graduate students, and your interests to the governing bodies of the university leadership, all levels of government, and the Calgary community. We sit on a municipal advocacy body for Calgary, a provincial where we're working with the provincial government to make sure graduate students' interests are heard, as well as our Canadian Student Alliance, where we talk to the federal government about graduate student concerns. So our big goal that we have, one of our main ones, is to advocate on behalf of all graduate student issues. And as your GSA, we also provide services to help you have a great graduate school experience. We are the managers of the Health and Dental Plan, and we have a Q&A coming up later in the week where you can ask any health and dental plan questions that you may have. We offer a variety of bursaries and grants throughout the year. We have 2 different types of bursaries. One that's a ongoing bursary where there's 2 intakes. And then we also have emergency bursaries. So if you ever find yourself in financial stress and needing emergent funds, please look into our emergency bursaries program. We also have professional development grants that will help you go to conferences and workshops and help support you in your graduate career that way as well as many different awards. So all of this information can be found on the GSA website, and the applications are there as well. So I definitely encourage you to check them out. For academically employed graduate students, we are also your union and manage the collective agreement. So the collective agreement is the contract between the university as the employer and the graduate students as the employees. Some of you may have these contracts already looked at. They are GATs, so non-teaching graduate assistantships, teaching graduate assistantships, as well as research graduate assistantships. So please know that you do have a union and you do have a collective agreement. And I would really encourage you to check out the collective agreement if you're academically employed in this upcoming semester, or if you ever become academically employed. We also have many different opportunities for you to get involved outside of your studies. We have many events happening, all virtual for the fall. So they're all online and you can check them out on our website. We also have graduate student groups that you can join and different committees and amazing volunteer opportunities available to you. And really, graduate school is what you make of it. So please check out anything you have an interest in. There may be a group for you to join and connect with like-minded people, which will be incredibly important in this new virtual sphere that we'll be living in for the next little bit. But if you have any questions about the GSA, please reach out to us. Although our office is virtual during the fall semester, the student executives and our GSA staff are ready to help you at any time. So I think that almost brings us to a close of the welcome session. So if you have any questions you would like to learn more about or connect with our welcome speakers, please contact the Faculty of Graduate Studies by emailing them at graduate@ucalgary.ca, and they would be happy to help direct you. Thank you to all our panelists for joining us today. We will say our goodbyes to you for now, but we look forward to connecting with you and hearing more from you over the next year. Now, before we move on to the next session, let's take a quick look at our opening poll to see the variety of programs you are all from and where you're joining us from. So we have a good amount of course-based and thesis-based masters, followed by our PhD students, as well as our diploma students. And we have a variety of locations. So within Calgary is our main, within Canada, Asia, Africa, oh my goodness, all over. Well, fantastic, welcome. This is such a unique experience where we can be joining from wherever we are on the world. Please know that even though we're all spread out, we're a tight-knit community and all these resources are available to you virtually. So just use Google as your best friend to source all these resources at the university. So that officially brings our welcome session to a close. In transitioning to our next session, I'd like to play a video from one of our graduate students, Mandy Moe, PhD student, Community Health Sciences. I hope you enjoy hearing from her.
Hi, my name is Mandy. I'm a PhD student from Community Health Sciences, specializing in community rehabilitation and disability studies. I know it's a mouthful. I just want to say welcome to the beginning of a new era, academically speaking, of course. So I'm definitely a unique case. I'm a Canadian student and my life and research journey has taken me across the world, and I'm studying the mental health policies in Saudi Arabia. I'm very honored to have been asked to share some of my experiences and advice as someone who is studying remotely, even before COVID. First off, at some point in your very near future, if not presently, you'll feel overwhelmed. And I'm here to tell you that it's not a sprint. And you have to see this as a marathon, or you're burned out, and it not only affects your life, the quality of your life, but you're not going to be as efficient. So here is your daily reality. You have to chunk those major tasks into small, manageable daily tasks and stay consistent. It means that you have to just touch your academic workload almost every day. It might be easier when you have a course with strict deadlines to get the fire under your bum to perform. But when you're remotely researching from across the world at a different time zone, consistency is key. But if I woke up every morning and promised myself that I would go to town on a certain chapter, I would go mad. There'll be good and bad days. On a good day, I can get so much done. But on a bad day, it is a total success if I just implemented page numbers. And that's totally fine and realistic. Just make sure you're consistent because it builds momentum. However, when I do take a decision to take days off and slow down, I not only tell myself to lay off work, which is hard because you're always thinking about your research, but I celebrate all my small and big successes during that time. Because resting and celebrating regularly is not only a skill set, but that's part of grad studies work. Believe me when I say it's necessary because we're such keeners, and we often look at the setbacks that are inevitably in our journey. Finally, I know you need support. That's very cliche. It could be your family, your friends, partner, dog, whatever. But the reason why I never gave up during those hard and certain times, and there were many and many more to come, thank you 2020. But the point is, I never gave up because I built a network of support inside the university setting for the beginning of the program, or of my program. I say build a rapport with not only your supervisor, which is Captain Obvious, but find resources around you at the university. If you have a disability, build an online or in-person meet with your accessibility advisor. They led me to work with my strategist, who is like a fairy godmother to me. I wouldn't have known about her if I didn't ask. If you probably have questions, which I'm sure you do, direct them to your FGS advisor or even a graduate program administrator. They're called GPAs. Heck, it's COVID season. Utilize the Wellness Center for therapists. I familiarize myself with the resources in U of C, so when uncertainty hits, I know I can reach out and have access to them to discuss my action plan or options, and that alleviated so much anxiety. Think about it this way. You wouldn't see your dentist when you finally have painful cavities, I hope. And in the same wavelength, you need to keep good mental hygiene at all times. So keep touch with the U of C as often as you can. So even when there's a global pandemic, while I'm far from home, and it does suck, I do miss home, but I'm proud that I'm still standing. Surprised that I am, but I'm super proud of it. And I'm still consistent. And I will keep pacing myself all the way to the finish line. And I hope we all get there too. And on that note, good luck and stay safe.
Great, thanks, Mandy. I really appreciate your candid response of how you manage graduate school, and everyone can take note and kind of create their own strategies as well. So I'm going to pass the session over to Robin, where he'll describe Zoom etiquette and more details about how the Faculty of Graduate Studies can support you throughout your degree.
Thank you, Tennille, and thank you to all the panelists of our welcome session. So that was the sort of the formal part of orientation done with, and for the remaining sessions, we're going to be a little less formal, and I guess that was probably signaled by Mandy's comment of fire under your bum, or Captain Obvious comments. I love it. So we have a lot of information to present to you, and we recognize that many of you will have questions or want to comment. To help to stay actively engaged, we have a few ways in which you can connect. If you have questions at any time, please use the Q&A box. We have a team of people working behind the scenes who are happy to connect with you, and they'll do their best to help you. So please note your questions and their answers will be moderated. The moderator will either answer your question for you directly, or they'll interrupt the speaker and ask the question of the speaker. So to reduce the number of duplicate questions, there's also an upvote function. So you can upvote a question if you have there's a question that comes up that you think is very important to you also, you can upvote it so it bumps it up the list and it'll increase its priority to be answered. So if we don't answer your question right away, don't worry, we may be waiting to a different point in the presentation or a different session to keep things flowing. So you can also use the chat function to interact with other participants or share information. The chat will also be moderated, and important questions from the chat might end up in the Q&A. So lastly, if you have a Facebook or Twitter account, you can share your experience through social media. Please be sure to tag FGS and the GSA on those postings. All right, so I hope everyone's comfortable and ready for the next session.
Robin, before we move on to that next session, we do have a first question in our Q&A that I thought might be a good one to ask live.
Excellent. Thanks, Dan.
The question is, can professors require us to attend live Zoom lectures? Will all Zoom lectures be recorded?
So that's a good question. It will vary by the different course and the course instructor. So I would encourage you to try to attend as many of the material that's being delivered online as possible. Obviously, it's your prerogative not to attend. However, you must make sure that you're aware of the consequences of not attending. There may be participation marks. And so the most important thing is to talk to your course coordinator and look at and ask them for the rules and regulations or what they expect of that particular course. And if you have any challenges, so say, if, for instance, you're in a different time zone and it's very difficult for you to attend that Zoom lecture, or you're looking after children, or you have responsibilities in elder care, please let the course instructor know. And because there's probably accommodations that can be made, and they should be able to help you attend the majority of the course, given your personal situation. If you have any problems with that, please contact your graduate program director, or you can come to us at FGS.
Thanks, Robin. We see the questions actually are coming in here, but we do have another question if I can put it live. That is, some of my classes that start next week do not have scheduled lecture times. What does this mean? Thank you.
That will be the same answer is to contact your course coordinator. Some of the lectures are going to be delivered asynchronously. Or some of the professors will be flipping their classroom. And so there's different formats, and please bear with the different instructors and professors. They're learning in a new, or teaching in a new environment they're not familiar with as well. But many of them being very creative with how they're delivering their content, rather than being a talking head into a traditional lecture style situation. So once again, it's going to be very specific to that particular course. So I encourage you to contact your course coordinator and ask those questions directly. So I guess we can move on, and we can further questions, we can sprinkle them through the presentation, or we can have a more thorough Q&A at the end of this. Okay, so if we can move on to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is the first session, and I'm going to be doing this along with my colleague, Dr. Michelle Spetter. My name is Robin Yates. I have the privilege of being the Dean and Vice Provost of Graduate Studies, and I'm also a professor in Cummings School of Medicine and Veterinary Medicine, where I'm a proud supervisor of 5 graduate students. Dr. Michelle Spetter will be joining us. Aside from being a geoscientist, Michelle is also our manager of graduate enrollment, and she'll be outlining some exciting things such as registration fees, tuitions, deadlines. Yay, Michelle. She might also throw a few fun facts in about rocks from her geoscience days. We just never know. All right, so let's move on to the next slide, please, Kim. Okay, so while your academic and professional home might be in another faculty, school, department, or institute, such as the Schulich School of Engineering, Cummings School of Medicine, Haskell School of Business, you, as a graduate student, are registered in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. And the Faculty of Graduate Studies, or sometimes it's referred to as FGS, or just Graduate Studies, provides leadership and support for excellence in graduate education and the student experience. So we set uniform admission and program standards. So that means that if you get a PhD from one program, it has the same meaning and credibility and reputation as a PhD, any PhD from the University of Calgary. So we set and enforce rules, regulations, and policies. I know that's not exciting, but it's an important function of FGS. We administer registration, deadlines, oral defenses, and conferral of degrees. On a plus side, we also administer around about $30 million annually in financial awards and scholarships and bursaries. We also grant supervisory privileges for all graduate supervisors, and we promote quality supervision and supervisory development for faculty members. We also spend a lot of time managing student issues and academic conduct. And finally, we promote enrichment of extracurricular programming and opportunities like internships. So we go to the next slide, please. So despite the challenges with COVID, FGS is open for business. We have always been open for business. We are physically located on the top of Earth Sciences building on main campus. So that's floor 10 of Earth Sciences. We have limited face-to-face operating hours, but we also have a virtual reception where you can virtually show up and have your questions, answers, or do any of the dealings you need with FGS. So please feel free to stop by, but also feel free to visit us virtually. Could move on, please. So the graduate calendar, most of you have probably inadvertently stumbled upon the graduate calendar, but I want to draw everyone's attention to this because this is the actual official document of the rules and regulations of the graduate school. So it's not necessarily a calendar. It does contain the academic schedule for 2020, 2021, but it also is generally the rule book or the guidebook of the Faculty of Graduate Studies, where you can find tuition and general fee information, program descriptions, so you've probably already been here because you're already enrolled in your programs. Courses of instruction, so the different courses will, of graduate level courses will have descriptions and course codes in there, and also outlines the academic regulations. And moderators, please interrupt me if you feel it's an appropriate time to ask a question.
Robin, I'm glad you asked. There is another question that a lot of people would like to have answered. What tools are available to support students studying in time zones that are, say, 11 or 12 hours away? Some classes for this student in particular start at 1:30 a.m. And in the event of missing some classes, what options does the student have?
So I would, once again, I don't want to dismiss these questions because they're very legitimate questions, accommodation questions. However, this has to be directed at the instructor of record for each individual course. The professors are aware that we're going to strive to increase accessibility to all students studying both abroad and locally, and we want fair and equal access. So if you are experiencing challenges with time zone differences, and if there are not face-to-face but virtual events that you are expected to show up in real time, please let the instructor know. And if you think you're getting an unsatisfactory answer, please let us know or let the GSA know, and we can work with the professors to try to institute formal accommodations. And formal accommodations may be recording of materials, it may be offering multiple sessions, but I cannot speak for those teaching faculties. But we recognize that this is a challenge for many of you, and I would encourage you to speak up and to ask for accommodations wherever they're possible. Excellent. So moving on with the general rules and regulations and ethos of the university. So within the general university calendar, you'll also find the code of conduct. So as a university student, you are bound by this code. But it's not just for students, it's for all students, faculty, and staff. We are all bound by this code. And while you can be expected to follow this code, you can also expect other members of the UCalgary community to also follow it. So there are 4 parts to the code. And one is respect for the dignity of all. And I know Dr. Marshall mentioned this with respect to her comments on equity, diversity, and inclusion. Second is a fair treatment of individuals. You can be expected to be treated fairly, and we expect you to treat others fairly. Respect for academic freedom is the third point. And finally, respect for university resources and properties of individual. So next slide, please. So another set of codes which we are bound to, not as students, but as, or professionals, but as scholars, researchers, professionals, paraprofessionals, and academics, are the principles of intellectual honesty. And this is a cornerstone of the development and acquisition of knowledge. So this encompasses research integrity, academic honesty, and fair and proper acknowledgement of intellectual property. So one of the most common breaches of intellectual honesty that we see is plagiarism. Now, 9 out of 10 times, these cases of plagiarisms are completely accidental. And it is completely unintentional. And if you have any questions or are unsure of any aspects of plagiarism and how to avoid it, you should ask your instructor, you should ask your supervisor, or you should register and attend one of the many academic integrity courses offered by the Student Success Center. And I know some of my colleagues will be talking about the Student Success Center in subsequent sessions. So next slide, please. So as a new graduate student, in addition to FGS, there are people you absolutely need to know. Now, as Mandy put it, there's Captain Obvious, which is your supervisor. Now, many of you who are in research or thesis-based degrees will have a supervisor already assigned to you. If you're in a professional degree or course-based degree, you may not have a supervisor, and that's okay. You're not expected to have a supervisor. But if you have a supervisor, you obviously should know who that is, and that is your first point of contact for any questions or concerns. So another important contact is a graduate program director. Now, the graduate program director is a faculty member who is the leader of your graduate program. So these people are leaders within the program, but they also liaise between your teaching faculty, the teaching faculty, your home unit or department, and faculty of graduate studies. So they're a conduit to the faculty of graduate studies, and they're extremely knowledgeable about not only faculty of graduate studies rules and regulations, but also they have the disciplinary expertise to answer your questions within your program. So finally is your graduate program administrator. Now, most likely you've already interacted with your graduate program administrator, or as Mandy said, it was your GPA. And most likely it was during the admission process and letter of office. These are administrators and specific to your program, and they're extremely knowledgeable with respect to deadlines. Now, might bug you with respect to certain forms or something that need to be handed in. But they are also a rich source of information for the operations of the university, and a good person to reach out to should you have any questions. So if you don't know who your graduate program director or administrator is, please go and find out. Send some emails, and because these are important contacts that you'll need to know throughout your program. So next slide, please. Studying during COVID. As you probably noticed, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and things are a little strange. Everyone's kind of getting sick of the term unprecedented. I think everyone wants to go back into precedented times, but nonetheless, this is where we are. So many labs on campus or the campuses or creative spaces or field work have resumed operations. Now, some of them have been classified as critical research, in which if they're classified as critical, if the university shuts down, these research activities will continue. Other research activities are continuing under modified circumstances. So if you are expected to perform research or creative activities on campus in these spaces, you should be aware of not only the campus protocols, and safety protocols which applies to everyone, but also the safety protocols within your particular research or creative space. If you haven't read a document to that effect, please ask your supervisor or whoever's in charge of that space what the safety protocols are.
Robin?
Yes, Dan.
We have a couple of questions that are relevant to the issue of studying during COVID. Several people are wondering, can we access the digital library at the university? And is it required to purchase the digital version of textbooks that may have a high cost?
I would ask Library and Cultural Resources. Library and Cultural Resources it operates the libraries. The physical Taylor Digital Family Library, TFDL, is operational and it does have open hours, albeit limited in space because of physical distancing and also time. But they have expanded digital resources as well. So during the summer, the Library and Cultural Resources attempted to acquire and did acquire many additional digital copies of different textbooks. They have a very functional and responsive Q&A box. And so I would encourage, if you have a specific question or you don't have access or you need access to physical resources, to drop that into the Q&A on Library and Cultural Resources website, and they should be able to answer you in real time the different ways of assessing those resources. We do want to limit the financial burden that comes with acquiring resources of your own. And so once again, please reach out and see if they're available to members of the campus community before going out and purchasing those. And once again, if perhaps we can throw in the chat a web link to the Library and Cultural Resources website and help page, that will probably be useful for the participants. Excellent. So under the COVID campus safety plans, you have both rights as well as responsibilities to look after your health and also the health of others. And Dr. Marshall mentioned this with respect to the requirement to wear masks. But you also may be required to be on campus for research and teaching activities. So if you feel uncomfortable or unsafe doing so, coming to campus or being in these spaces, please speak out. Speak to your supervisor, speak to the instructor of record, or reach out to us at Faculty of Graduate Studies. There are many accommodations that we can make, but there is absolutely no requirement to be here if you feel unsafe or you're risking your personal safety to do so. So please let us know. Moving on to the next slide, please. So where do I get the most up-to-date information? We're living in this pandemic in real time. Regulations change both at the federal and provincial level, but also at the university and faculty level. So we strive to keep this webpage up to date on a daily basis. And that voice that comes on, Dan's voice, he's our communication specialist, and it's his job to make sure this website is up to date. And so if you go to grad.ucalgary.ca and you hit the COVID-19 banner, it'll take you to this page. And that will give us the three boxes here, which gives us the contact information for FGS and the most up-to-date operating hours. Also, we have FAQs for fall 2020, specifically in relation to COVID-19. And we also have a button there for international students who are traveling to Canada and have to self-isolate. So these contain all the most up-to-date links from the different levels within the university and external to the university, and many of the frequently asked questions. If we can please advance to the next slide, Kim. So this is the FAQ site. If you have additional questions that you think should be included in there, please let us know at graduate@ucalgary.ca, and we can strive to put some additional resources up here. And next slide, please. And this is the COVID-19 dashboard. So this is a university level dashboard. As you know, many institutions have a real-time dashboard, so you can be aware of how many COVID cases are currently on campus. So this is something you might want to bookmark, and just to keep up to date. Currently, we have no cases of COVID-19 reported in the past 2 weeks on campus. That's sort of unsurprising because we have sort of a skeleton student body and skeleton staff on campus. So this is a site that if we have a confirmed case of COVID-19, those digits will be displayed there. So we're completely open and transparent about the level of transmission or level of number of cases on campus. If we can go to the next slide, and this is the support for internationally arriving students. I know many of you are starting abroad and studying remotely, but we really hope at some point in time with the travel restrictions being lifted and the increased movement around the globe, that you will be joining us physically. This is going to be up to date. It's going to be a resource for you. And this was put together by our student advisor, Yan. So that's the other voice that pops in and asks questions. And she has put these resources together to aid in your arrival and to accumulate as much up-to-date information for new international students there as possible, such as quarantine requirements, but also things like where can I get a bank account, or where can I get groceries, or these how do I get from the airport. So this is information that will be there. So please keep an eye on that if you are planning on traveling to Canada. If you are planning to travel to Canada, to Calgary from abroad, we do need you to register because we have to monitor your self-isolation for 14 days. And so please follow the links within this website to let us know your date of arrival, and so we can welcome you properly. Next slide, which we're actually gonna pause on this. I think we're switching gears here. So that was, is there any questions there, Dan and Yan, that we can answer at this point in time before we talk about?
Just a really quick question, Robin. There was one student who was asking about the availability of face masks and where they can go to get face masks.
Absolutely. So if you are registered in a course that is face-to-face, as in as your physical presence on campus, you should have been sent an email letting you know how and when to pick up your face masks. So the university is providing graduate students who are registered in a face-to-face course, in addition to any graduate students who are required to be on campus or in the field or in other creative spaces. They're providing 2 reusable face masks. An email from the student experience office should have been sent directly to your UCalgary email, letting you know times to register to pick up these masks from McEwen Hall. So if you haven't received that email, so masks are not being provided for graduate students who do not need to be on campus. And that will be the responsibility of those graduate students. But if you are required, you are legitimately able to pick up masks. If you can certainly email graduate@UCalgary if you haven't received that particular email, and we can forward your email onto that office. So I just want to switch gears a little bit, and I know people have been sitting there for a while. But the good thing about Zoom is you can multitask while you're listening to lectures or things like GradO. So those in front of a computer, if you can bring up Google, and if you have access to Google, and you know how Google, it can have this predictive text. So you can start typing something in Google and it will predict what you're going to ask based on the frequency of previously asked questions. So if you could start to type the phrase into the Google search bar, graduate school makes me. And if you don't mind, if you want to throw in the chat, what sort of suggestions Google is throwing up there. So once again, graduate school or grad school makes me. And if I'm just doing it right now, yes, grad school makes me feel stupid. And also the other ones is, yes, feels like a failure. Graduate student makes me feel fat. I don't know where that comes from. Depressed, bitter. So why is this? Why is sad sometimes? Thank you. So why is this? Why does graduate school make so many people feel this way? And I think many of you would have heard of the term imposter syndrome. And actually, if you look up imposter syndrome and so a definition, or look at imposter syndrome on Wikipedia, it actually mentions, it calls out graduate school of being a hotbed of imposter syndrome. Now, I certainly felt this when I was doing my PhD in biomedical sciences. And I feel it in every new job that I have. I feel like I don't belong, I don't know anything, and it feels really bad. So I wanted to find out a little bit more about imposter syndrome. And being a biochemist and cell biologist, I'm not a psychologist whatsoever. But the experts in the field point to a seminal study done at Cornell in the late 90s, where incidentally where I got my PhD. And it was a study done by Dunning and Kruger in the late 90s. And it's been repeated many times in many different contexts, and the results are surprisingly similar. So we've done this little video, Faculty of Graduate Studies, to sort of help explain the Dunning-Kruger curve and how it fits to graduate school. So if we can just cue that, please, Kim. I'm going to speak over this. Okay, as I said, this is done by two researchers in Cornell. And what they did, they measured the confidence of participants that they had, the self-confidence, against the knowledge in a particular field and their actual competence in a particular field. So one would expect that as one ability increases in a field, their confidence in self would increase in a linear fashion. But that is not so. So this is what the relationship actually looked like. So an individual who has a little but not much knowledge in a particular field will have sky-high levels of self-confidence. And this has been nicknamed Mount Stupid. But as the individual learns or develops a little bit more in the field, they realize how much they actually don't know.
Back on there again, are you?
And their self-confidence plummets. This is nicknamed the Valley of Despair. So this is where imposter syndrome sets in. But as an individual's knowledge and ability develops, so too does their self-confidence, but only in an incremental fashion. So this is nicknamed the slope of enlightenment. So let me bring back to this graduate student experience. So as an undergraduate, you learn a little bit of information about a lot of different topics in many different fields. And your self-confidence in those individual topics are actually probably pretty high. And I can relate to this. When I started my PhD, I had an undergraduate in microbiology. I had a veterinary degree under my belt. And I was pretty confident that I knew a fair amount about bacterial pathogenesis. But when I started in the very detailed field studying mycobacterium tuberculosis, I suddenly realized, as I learned a little bit more, that I knew nothing. And I fell off Mount Stupid straight into the Valley of Despair. And this is likely to happen to you as well. And this is not a good feeling. You feel like you don't belong. You feel like, oh my gosh, I've made a mistake in my admission. I've overestimated my abilities. I shouldn't be in grad school. I'm never going to know as much as my next PhD student or as much as my supervisor. And it's very hard to pull yourself out of the valley of despair. However, if you're feeling this, take solace in the fact that you've lost self-confidence in a particular field means that you're gaining ability or knowledge in that field. You're moving along that x-axis. And so you're actually increasing your knowledge, and eventually you'll pull out of the valley of despair in the slope of enlightenment. And you will gradually and responsibly and steadily increase your self-confidence. But you know what? Sometimes it's very hard to pull yourself out of the valley of despair. And sometimes you recognize it in yourself and you can recognize it in other people. And that's where it's really important to reach out for help. So reach out for help to fellow students, reach out to help for your supervisor, because your supervisor probably has gone through this as well. And if you really can't, those don't help and you really can't pull yourself out of this valley, please reach out to us at Faculty of Graduate Studies. We have student advisors who can confidentially advise you on such matters, and also student wellness. And you can get some perspective with respect to how you can pull yourself out of this slump and get onto that slope of enlightenment. So that's pretty much it from me. Once again, it's an honor to welcome you to the University of Calgary, and I really hope that I'm able to see most of you, if not all of you, face to face in the not too distant future. So I'll open up for any questions before I hand it over to Michelle. Dan and Yan. We got no questions? Okay, that's fantastic. Well, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Michelle Spetter, who will take it from here. I think we have perhaps a video after this. Excellent. We can, yes, by the way, it gets cold in Calgary. This is a picture of our sort of quadrangle in peak of winter. And I very much hope you experience this this bittersweet feeling of cold. Excellent.
Hi everyone. Congratulations on your acceptance to graduate studies. I would like to welcome you all to the University of Calgary. My name is Mahmoud Ababne, and I am a PhD student in the English department. I joined the University of Calgary in 2017, and I am very grateful to have this chance to work and study here on Treaty 7 territory, and I am pretty sure we are all about to embark on a great adventure. If I would go back and give my pre-grad school self some advice, it would be to stay on top of my work and keep organized. It is easy to become overwhelmed with an ever-increasing to-do list. Maintaining a steady and regular work schedule and organizing tasks by priority keeps me from getting stressed out. The best advice I received as a grad student is to know what resources are available for you, whether in your department, the library, or the Faculty of Graduate Studies, and take advantage of them. Also, in these unprecedented times, we need community support. So seek out mentors and don't try to do it alone. And know that as you try to find your way, you will make mistakes. No one is perfect, and that's okay.
Excellent, thank you. Michelle, I'm going to pass it over to you to answer any questions on fees and regulations and all things great enrollment, and to go through your presentation. So thank you, Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction, Robin. We are now going to switch gears to talking about some of the less exciting, but definitely no less important parts of grad school, and that is your registration and your fees. Move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So registration means maintaining your status as a student. All graduate students must maintain continuous registration year-round. So even if you aren't taking courses, you must still be registered. It is your responsibility to register each year at the time of your registration anniversary. So everybody here is starting their programs in the fall term this month. So all of you have a registration anniversary of fall, and that means every August that you're here, you'll be activating your annual registration online through your student center. Next slide, thank you. There are two types of fees that come along with being a graduate student. The first one is tuition fees. If you are a thesis-based student, your tuition fees are divided over the 4 terms of the academic year. That means you pay 1/3 in the fall, 1/3 in the winter, 1/6 in the spring, and 1/6 in the summer term. If you are a course-based student, your tuition fees are charged per course that you are enrolled in. Some grad programs have their additional fees called program-specific fees. Make sure that you check the graduate calendar. We've put the link up on this slide to find out if your program has any graduate-specific fees and learn more about that so that you don't get any surprises when you go to pay your fees. Next slide, thank you. The other type of fees are called general fees, and these go towards student services on campus as well as your extended health and dental insurance that Tennille mentioned from the GSA earlier. There's 2 kinds of general fees. There's annual general fees that are assessed once a year at the time of your registration anniversary. So for everybody here, that'll be this month. And then there are term general fees that are assessed for each academic term that you are registered as an active student. It's really important that you pay your fees on time to avoid being charged late interest. You can look up the fee payment deadline for each semester in the graduate calendar. This term, the fee payment deadline is Friday, September 25th. There's several ways to pay your fees, but it's all online right now. So you can pay through online banking, through Western Union Global Pay for Students, or CIBC International Student Pay. Because we recognize that COVID has come along with some financial challenges for many of us, the Faculty of Graduate Studies is offering payment plans for all registered graduate students for the fall 2020 term. A payment plan allows your fees to be split into 3 or 4 payments over the term, rather than having to pay everything as a lump sum by the 25th deadline this month. However, in order to have a payment plan on your account, you have to fill out a form and submit it to FGS by September 30th to make sure that this is formally set up in the system so that your account doesn't accrue late interest. You can get the application form as well as more details from the link that's shown on this slide as well. The reality is that tuition isn't the only thing that costs money when you're a grad student. Whether you're new to Calgary or whether you've lived here your whole life, I highly recommend trying out the GSA's cost of living calculator. This is a super user-friendly tool that's very helpful for planning out your personal finances. And it's important to make sure that your finances are well managed so that you can put your time and energy into what you came here to do, your graduate program.
Hey grads, welcome to the University of Calgary. I'm Jenny. I'm a 3rd year's master student in the medical sciences program. You may see me around the health sciences building. Haven't been a graduate student for almost 3 years now. If I were to go back in time with the knowledge I have now and to talk with the Jenny of 2018, I would tell her that it's okay to fumble. Grad school is no joke. It can be challenging and stressful at times, but don't forget that you can ask for help. You're going to make connections with a bunch of other graduate students who understand what you're going through. You have your supervisor, your grad advisor, your DGA, and other faculty members for you to reach out to and confide in. With that being said, graduate school is a great experience. I've learned so much and I've met so many wonderful people. I think the best advice is to don't stop having fun. Good luck.
Excellent. And coincidentally, that was that was one of my graduate students, Jenny Nguyen. And I'm actually, it's the first time I've seen that video, and I'm really proud that she's actually wearing a lab coat in the lab. So that's good. Questions at the end of the session for Michelle or me? Dan and Yan? Excellent. Well, with that, we will end this session and move on to the next session. So this next session will be moderated by Jaya Dixit and Tennille Chandra. And so I'll pass it over to both Jaya and Tennille.
Great. Hello, welcome back, everyone. Can I please get the next slide?
Tennille, isn't it fun working on this online environment?
It's so fantastic.
Yeah, it's always seamless. There's never any errors.
Never. How could there be with all of us Zoom experts now that we're into this so far?
It's fantastic. And I can see Jay has popped up there.
Awesome.
I apologize, folks, for the bumpy road, but you can experience many Zoom moments with freeze frame, cats moving across screen, children in the background. So this is a good introduction for any Zoom mishaps. So I'll pass it over to Tennille and Jaya.
Awesome. Thanks, Robin.
Great. So hi, I'm Jaya Dixit, and I'm one of the graduate academic and international specialists here in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. Together with Tennille, we're going to be bringing you what we hope is some really valuable information about the people and the virtual places you can visit anytime you need help during your graduate journey. Before we get into that, I just want to make a really quick note here in real time that, and I'm here at FGS, really close to our command center where all of our backstage crew are working really hard. There are tons of great questions coming through in the Q&A right now and a few in the chat. Just bear with us because we have a mighty team of two trying to get to everything. If we don't get to your question today, please feel free to email us at graduate@ucalgary.ca. Even if it's not an FGS specific question, we'll make sure to triage it and make sure that we get you connected to the people who can best answer your questions. So just bear with us. This is our first journey on virtual GradO as well. And keep the questions coming. Absolutely, we're thrilled with your level of engagement. So I think I just want to give you a quick roadmap of what this next section will look like. I'm gonna give you an overview of what it looks like to be a student and to access services at the time when you need them, the how and where. I'm gonna turn it over to Tennille after that, and she's gonna walk us through in a more in-depth way the really important essential services that the GSA, the Graduate Students Association, will provide you during your time here as a student. And then something really special this year, a departure from our normal format. Many of our partners here on campus have pre-recorded messages and prepared slides just for GradO, just for our new students, welcoming you and giving you a little bit of a tour or an overview of the services that they provide. So just sit tight here. I think some of this may seem like information that's far away or off in the distance for you, but as the term evolves, it'll be great for you to know who's around and how to get in touch with them. So I think it's really valuable for all of you to know that we don't just see ourselves in advising roles as people who answer your questions. We see you as whole people living full lives, and we want to meet you where you are. So our approach to how we help and work with students here at FGS and at the other offices here on campus is really to understand when you have a question or problem, what are all the aspects of it and how is it impacting you? So this diagram is just to show you that we all work together in a really connected way to give you the best possible experience to get you smooth sailing through any questions or concerns or dilemmas you may be facing. And you'll notice that in addition to all of the support services like counselors, like learning strategists, like access advisors, we also have your program directors in there. So on the academic side, as well as on the non-academic side, hopefully we've got all of your bases covered. And we can go to great. And this slide is just going to give you some names to start committing to memory. These are the offices you can visit eventually on campus. And our partners have worked incredibly hard to be able to deliver these services virtually. So we're going to tell you a little bit more about all of them. I'm going to touch on a couple here right now. And when I'm done with that, we'll have that great overview of the GSA from Tennille. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So normally we have a welcome center open here on campus for all of you who are new to Calgary and trying to figure out anything from how do I find a place to live to how do I get a SIN number, a bank account. Our fantastic colleagues over in the Student and Enrollment Services group have moved this whole resource online. And so if you are new to Calgary, whether you're self-isolating right now or you're just trying to figure out the answers to some questions, for the next couple of days, I really encourage you to check out the Welcome Center, collect some really good info about how to get really well settled in here in Calgary. And our next slide, please. Thank you. Some of you are probably coming here right from International Graduate Essentials, and if you are, I applaud you. You are on a really great journey of collecting information and knowledge today. This is a long orientation morning for you, but you're doing great. For those of you who couldn't attend or would like to know more, our colleagues at International Student Services offer you an incredible suite of advising services. Most notably, they have immigration advisors who can answer any of your questions about your study permits, your visas, if you're planning to become a permanent resident, if you'd like to work in Canada after your degree is done. Really, these are the only people qualified on campus to be able to answer those kinds of questions, and they are absolutely outstanding at what they do. Like the GSA, like other offices, International Student Services also offers great events to help you get acculturated, settled, to help you transition to life in Canada. You may have heard from Ricky or Kirsty or Garrett or any of our colleagues there at International Graduate Essentials. I work with them every day and I can tell you they're fantastic. And finally, before I hand it over to Tennille, I just want to highlight the Graduate College. This is a really unique and neat group of students who come together to form a community of scholars. You have to apply to be accepted into the Graduate College, and I highly encourage you to check out their website, which is here on the slide, and they have a blog. I think that most importantly and most remarkably, they are able to get great speakers out for events, and they are a really active community of students offering support and service to other students. Really a neat program, a neat initiative connected to the Faculty of Graduate Studies. A really well organized group. So definitely head over to their contact and check out what they have to offer. So Tennille, that's it for me right now. I'm gonna hand it back to you. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about the GSA, and I'm sure that our students are too.
Awesome, great. Thanks so much, Jaya. Really awesome resources and different campus partners that I encourage you all to check out. So if any of you weren't on this morning, I'm Tennille, the GSA president, so I'm here to tell you all about the GSA. So you'll hear a lot of acronyms over the next little while, but the GSA is the Graduate Students Association, and we represent the graduate students to the university at all levels of government and as well as the Calgary community. We also provide many other services that I'm going to outline here for you right now. So the GSA is made up of student executives that are elected by you, the graduate students. So the election is kind of at the end of February, early March. And if you're at all interested in student government, I encourage you to reach out to the executive holding the position right now to learn more about it, because it's a fantastic opportunity to just fully embrace yourself in graduate school. Our work is supported by our incredible staff team and a bunch of student-run committees that have student volunteers on them. So I'll tell you all about how you can get involved. But this is our executive team for this year. So there's me, Tennille. Next we have Mary, our VP Student Life. Then we have Alex, our VP Academic, Kavita, our VP Finance and Services, and Christine, our VP External. So this year, because we're all digital, you'll see our faces a little less, but these are the faces behind the emails or any of the workshops or anything that we're running. And there's an event tomorrow that I'll talk about in a later slide, but it's a meet and greet for all of us. So we want to get to know you, and we hope you want to get to know us. So please come out to that. So next we have the Health and Dental Plan. So the Health and Dental Plan is one of the largest programs that the GSA runs. Together with student care, we provide many extra benefits to help keep you healthy. And these extended benefits can cover prescription drugs, dental and vision care, massage, physiotherapy, travel, and a lot more. It's all listed online, so please go check that out. Students are also covered by the Health and Dental Plan, have access to a program called Empower Me, which is a mental health and wellness service accessible by a toll-free number, also can be found online. But through this program, you'll be connected to a trained counselor, and no issue is too big or too small, and all interactions are confidential. So please use the Empower Me service if you need it at any point. In this plan, all full-time students are automatically enrolled and are covered for 12 months, starting at their program's start date. So for September students like yourself, you're covered from September 1st all the way to August 31st. Now, some of you may have dependents like a spouse or a child, and you can opt them into the plan for an additional fee during your change of coverage period, which I'll talk about in a few minutes here. But also, if you're not a full-time student, you may be eligible to opt into the plan for a fee. It's also possible that you have extended benefits through a spouse or parent that covers you already, and you wouldn't benefit from the GSA plan. So if you have another benefits plan, you can opt out of the GSA plan during your change of coverage period. So change of coverage period, what is that? So it's a period essentially where you can change your coverage and change your plan. So for you, it falls between August 26th and September 25th, 2020. But this time period is essentially very important for if you're not starting in September, you have a different change of coverage period. So if you're a grad student that started in January, May, or July, your change of coverage period will be in those respective months that you started. So please go check them out online because you can't just change it whenever you want throughout the year. So also an important note from those of you who are outside of Canada, you will need to enroll in the Alberta Healthcare Insurance Plan before you can access the GSA Health and Dental Plan. But for more information, you can visit the Government of Alberta website on that. But also, if you have any trouble with that, please just reach out to the team here at GSA and we'd be happy to direct you.
Neil, just a quick question. Could you clarify, one of our attendees has asked, are part-time students eligible for health and dental plans?
Yes, they are. They're just not automatically enrolled. The health and dental plan is definitely per case for students, and there's a lot of side cases. So I would say reach out to our team with your questions through email, and we can provide you with a ton of details specifically to your situation. Thanks, Dan. Yeah, please ask questions throughout the way and just stop me, but there'll also be a question time throughout or at the very end. So your benefits cover prescription drugs, dental, travel insurance, and a lot more than I can list here. So for please all the details, head to the GSA Student Care website or check out the app. So to claim your benefits, you can present the Pay Direct card for prescriptions and dental work, which is available on the Student Care website in the Download Center. But please note that during the month of September, this may not work due to the blackout period. So during this period, you can submit claims via the app or online. All you'll need is a receipt to do this, but for all other claims, you can submit them via the app or online, not in the blackout period. So for more information, again, you can visit the GSA website or Student Care. Just please make sure if you're looking at the Student Care website that you're looking at the specific UCalgary GSA plan. So tomorrow we are also hosting a health and dental Q&A with Student Care at 2 p.m. So you can get all your answers directly from them. So please submit your questions via Facebook and Instagram or during the event in the chat box. But for more information and for the link to the event, please see the GSA website. So another thing that I kind of touched on really quickly this morning is the GSA provides financial support. So there's many avenues to help support you financially during your studies. We offer different bursaries and grants throughout the year. So our bursary program is available through application intakes in the fall and winter semesters. and the funds can be used to ease financial strains that you may be experiencing during those semesters. I also mentioned the emergency bursary program, and it's available all year round and is there to support you in emergency or temporary situations. So please, if you find yourself in an unexpected situation that's making you have financial strain, please check out that application because it's there to support all of you as graduate students. If you plan to go to conferences, workshops, or academic presentations during your studies, you can apply for the Professional Development Grant to help offset the cost of attending these events. These are incredible opportunities to check out research in your field or different courses and workshops, so please utilize that. And also each year the GSA has GSA awards for students for their services to the community through a variety of awards that are given out at a gala held in April. And lastly, we have our Quality Money program. So through this program, you can access grants to support initiatives and events that impact graduate students. This is a great way to support multidisciplinary collaborations or interests outside of your research. And all of the applications for all of these financial supports that I've listed are on our website. So please visit our website, which is listed here, to check out these applications. Our awards committees have worked really hard over the summer to simplify these applications. So we're really excited about the intake for all these this year. So next, some of you may have received positions for teaching and research and are considered what we call academically employed graduate students. So if this is you, we, the GSA, are your union. If you have a teaching assistantship, a non-teaching assistantship, or research assistantship contract, with this contract, you have what I mentioned this morning of the collective agreement, and that outlines the rights and responsibilities of both, again, the employee, you as the graduate student, and the employer as the university. So you can find the collective agreement and more information about labor relations on the GSA website, or you can reach out to our Labor Relations Committee at the email you see on the slide. This is a really important document to check out. It's a contract that you're signing when you get any of these graduate assistantships, and really knowing your rights and responsibilities are super important, especially heading into this very unique COVID semester and this unique time. So please know that you do have rights and you do have responsibilities, and they're all listed in the collective agreement. So next, there's so many ways to get involved. Graduate school is absolutely what you make of it, and we are information dumping on all of you today about all the ways you can make your graduate experience the best it can possibly be. But it's really important to have a study-life balance, but the life balance can be you getting involved in things that you really enjoy. So on top of enriching your student experience, our programs will help you discover Calgary and the surrounding area, help you learn new skills to expand your CV, meet new people, and give back to your community. We have a lot of events throughout the year. So for fall 2020, we are bringing many great events online to you that include paint parties, holiday themed events, and physical activity-based events. We also run a discounted ticket program where you can purchase tickets to attractions and events at a greatly reduced price. Currently, we have tickets available to the Calgary Zoo, Royal Hotel Museum in Drumheller, and Water Park or Galaxyland at West Edmonton Mall in Edmonton. And for more attractions, they will become available as we get them. So please keep an eye out for new tickets. It's a great way for you to explore not only the Calgary community, but also if you're new to Alberta or Canada, the Alberta community as well. So both of these programs have some changes to them due to COVID. So all the events are running digitally, and the tickets are also have some changes to them, but we can deliver events material within Calgary and can mail tickets to you. So please know that even in our digital time, we still have all of these services available. And for those of you who are looking for volunteer opportunities, we have a volunteer recruitment program. So you can join the program and volunteer opportunities will be sent to you and you can sign up to attend. So it's a really great way to just stay in the know about all the new volunteer opportunities that are out and about in Calgary. The GSA also has many committees that help run GSA initiatives. So you can volunteer to be a member of these committees and help us govern, plan events, support sustainability, and so much more. We have 7 committees, 5 subcommittees, and some working groups. So really, whatever your interest is, I think we have something for you here. But if you're more interested in helping or getting to know the students in your department, we have something called a departmental graduate association. So if you have, I'm in chemistry, so we have the CGSA, so Chemistry Graduate Students Association, and we focus on things specifically for chemistry, and there's lots of departments that have these, so if you're interested in getting to know your cohort in your specific fields, please reach out to them and get to know them. They're all fantastic student leaders. But you also might have a specific special interest in not something that's research related to your research, but just anything else. And for those, we have something called graduate student groups. And this allows you to meet students with similar interests to you. So for more information on any of these groups or to check out anything that I've talked about that sparked your interest, I encourage you to head to our website at gsa.ucalgary.ca. So during orientation week, we have a few events happening. Tomorrow you can meet the executives that run the GSA, like I mentioned with all of our pictures there, and ask us any questions or any information about being a grad student at the University of Calgary, as well as our positions and what the GSA does. If you have any questions about the health and dental plan, you can ask student care directly tomorrow as well. And we are also running a GSA bingo this week. So by filling out a bingo card, you can be entered to win an iPad, a Nintendo Switch, or one of 10 $20 gift cards. And for more details and links about all of these events, please check it out on our website. Also, if you missed any of this presentation for a washroom break or a snack break, this will all be recorded so you can have access to it, and it'll also be posted on our website under graduate orientation. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Tennille. I can say that during my time as a grad student,
My name is Kevin Ween, and I am the manager of
now quite some time ago. Sorry, we just had a little audio interruption. I just wanted to say, Tennille, thanks for that. During my time as a grad student, which is now quite some time ago here at UCalgary, I really found my DGA, my Departmental Graduate Association, an awesome resource, and I use my health and dental, to full effect. So I can really attest firsthand to the value of those in so many services. So thanks, Tennille, for all your time today and for walking us through. I just want to reiterate to students, because there are so many great questions about health and dental and other things coming through related to the GSA, to please check out the links that Tennille mentioned in her presentation. And for sure, the GSA staff are incredibly responsive and will be able to attend to any questions you have that you can't find answers to online. I also just want to let you know, before we get to the last few narrated slides here that have been pre-recorded for us, that we do have a break just around the corner. So hang in there, you're doing great. These next few slides are just a few minutes long, and these are awesome services for you to get a hold of, to get in touch with at the front end of your program. So without further ado, we're going to go to our pre-recorded content here for the next couple minutes. Thanks.
My name is Kevin Weens, and I am the Manager of Student Wellness Support in Student Wellness Services. On behalf of Wellness Services, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all incoming graduate students. We are a full-service and multidisciplinary health clinic. Collaborating with the Faculty of Graduate Studies, our goal is to support positive mental health by providing graduate students direct care and connection to accessible resources. In addition to counseling, we offer workshops and groups covering topics such as anxiety, stress, self-care, and one of our more popular ones, how to survive and thrive in grad school. For questions about health appointments or to book an appointment, please call us at 403-210-9355. For questions about mental health services and supports or to request an appointment, please email us at sar@ucalgary.ca. Please also visit our website for additional resources at ucalgary.ca/wellness-services. I would like to take this opportunity to wish you all the best of luck as you begin your graduate journey here at the University of Calgary.
Welcome to the University of Calgary. My name is Matthew Geddes, and I'm a Career Development Specialist, Master's students. I'm excited that you're starting a graduate program at the U of C and truly hope that your time here is a period of both professional and personal growth. I'm with the Central Career Services Office, and I'm part of a team of 3 that supports master's and PhD students. We also offer services specifically tailored to international graduate students. At this time, all of our services are offered online by Zoom. They include webinars on various topics designed to support you with successfully securing and maintaining employment. We also offer one-to-one career coaching appointments that are tailored to your needs, which can include wanting help with a resume, exploring career options, learning how to look for work, and learning how to confidently interview. We also offer virtual career fairs and employer information sessions. Our website URL is www.ucalgary.ca/student-services/careers. Appointments with us can be booked via career link. That's career link, all one word, .ucalgary.ca. Good luck with your studies, and hopefully we'll see you at Career Services.
Hello, graduate students, and welcome. My name is Tara Christie, and I'm the manager of My Grad Skills. That's me, pictured on the right, working together with one of my amazing team members, Natalie Wilkinson-Houghton. Natalie coordinates our graduate student internship program. We work together with Chantal Palmer, our wonderful communications and events coordinator. My Grad Skills is your central resource for academic support and experiential learning. My team and I work out of the Faculty of Graduate Studies. Our goal is to make your life a little easier by helping connect you with workshops and resources that will assist you in navigating grad school. To learn more about what we offer, I'd encourage you to check out our website at grad.ucalgary.ca/myGradSkills. You can also follow us on Twitter for regular updates. As a former graduate student and alumna of UCalgary, I know you have lots to do in your first few weeks as a graduate student. So to start, I would encourage you to take a look at our workshop calendar and our regularly updated list of in-person and virtual workshops and resources. Whether you are on or off campus, there is so much support to help you in the areas of personal wellness, writing support, teaching and mentoring development, and more. Now, My Grad Skills also provides you with opportunities for personal growth to help you prepare for life after grad school. As you settle into your coursework and research, take a moment to check out our Transformative Talent Internship Program. This is a unique skills-based internship that helps you connect skills you develop during your graduate degree to careers outside the university. You can gain course credit and even funding for these opportunities. Last but not least, My Grad Skills offers research communications training focused around our annual 3-minute thesis competition. If you've not heard of 3MT, Google UCalgary 3MT to learn more about the impactful research being done by your fellow grad students and to see how you could practice your communication skills in a fun way. If you have any questions about any other opportunities or professional skills training you're interested in, do drop us an email at mygradskills@ucalgary.ca. We'd be more than happy to help you. On behalf of the My Grad Skills team, welcome again and best wishes for a great start to your studies.
Hello, and welcome to the University of Calgary. My name is Rhiannon Jones, and I'm a librarian here with Libraries and Cultural Resources. This quick video will give you a very quick tour of the library and show you how to get started with some of your research. The library is pretty easy to find from using library.ucalgary.ca. Once you're on the library website, there are many options available to you. You can browse our databases, you can look at subject guides, or you can look in our library search tool for multiple different types of items. One of the main things I want to show you while you're here is to how to connect with your librarian. If you go to the Ask Us tab, you can use the Consult a Librarian form if you don't know your librarian, or you can use the staff directory and filter by subject to find out who your librarians might be for any discipline. Another important thing that might help you get started is to look at the FAQs. Our FAQs are broken down into types of questions. So for example, if you click on research, it will bring up a list of questions that'll help you get started. For example, how do I get started with my research? Shows you what to do. Now, although this is a very quick library tour, there's way more involved in research. So we really recommend that you find your librarian and connect with them as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of our partners and really hardworking student-facing staff across campus who pulled together those great messages of welcome and information for all of you. Again, remember that because this session is recorded and will be available online, all of this information will be at your fingertips in no time at all. So this is the point at which, for many of our course-based students, probably most of you are going to be wishing you farewell, thanking you for spending your morning, maybe your evening, middle of the night with us. We hope that you have felt duly welcome into our community here. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn a little bit more about this community you're joining and all of the people who are wishing you well at the start of this chapter. The next two sessions are about fees and funding and working with your supervisor. So they are more relevant to students in course-based programs, but again, everyone is welcome. This is a really inclusive group. So before we take a break, if I could get the next slide, I would really encourage students who are sticking around to please participate in a poll before we go to break. So the two questions that we're gonna ask are around scholarships. So, do you think you're a competitive candidate for a scholarship? Is the first question from our poll. And the other one is, have you ever applied for scholarships? So in a moment, that poll will come up for you to answer. And afterwards, we're going to take a 10-minute break, which you've all earned. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Dr. Donna Marie McCafferty. She is the Associate Dean of Scholarships here in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. She's going to have a lot of really important and timely information for you about how to apply for scholarships, how to present yourself as a strong candidate, how to understand the funding you're currently holding. This is a really essential session for all of you who are hoping to increase your funding, increase the amount of funds that you're receiving as a graduate student. So please participate in the polls. And just as a final note, because there have been a lot of questions before we head to break, we have 2 sessions left. Our goal is to have us all wrapped up here by about 1:45 p.m. Calgary time. So if you need to budget your time accordingly, that's roughly what we're shooting for. But we have a lot of questions coming up in the chat and the Q&A, so we'll do our best to make it through in good time while attending to the things that you're hoping to have addressed today. So thanks a lot. Answer the polls, and we'll see you back here in 10 minutes.
Welcome back to this session. I was just trying to catch up on some emails, questions that have been coming in regarding scholarships. So we'll try to answer some of those questions through this session. Kim, are we going to do the results from the poll now, or is that coming later? Oh, here we go. So the poll, have you ever applied for scholarships? Just over half of you have applied for scholarships. 40% no, some of you are unsure about that. The second question is, do you think you are competitive for scholarships? And 62% of you say yes. A fewer amount say no, and there are about 30%, about a third of you are not sure whether you're competitive or not. So this is good information, and I think I'm here today to try and encourage you all to apply for scholarships. We'll get started on this presentation. So let's just close that off. So, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I was introduced earlier. I'm Donna Marie McCafferty. I am the Associate Dean of Scholarships at the Faculty of Grad Studies. I'm also an Associate Professor in the Cummings School of Medicine. Today we're going to talk about the scholarships and funding. And as Michelle has gone over previously in her presentation, she's discussed that you have fees which you're responsible for as a graduate student, and that they have to be paid each term by the fee deadline. So you have to remain registered and pay your fees. And as a thesis-based graduate student, you will have received in your letter of admission your guaranteed level of funding. And that guaranteed level of funding can be made up from a variety of sources. So for example, it could come from the supervisor's grant, It could come through graduate assistantships that you receive either through the program or in your own time. It also can come through program level funding, or it can come in the form of scholarships. And you can see that the various sources of your stipend can have effects on, for example, the availability of funding for your supervisor for other graduate students or for lab resources. Affects time for yourself. If you're doing a GAT, you may have a lot of time have to invest into those types of graduate assistantships. So I'm here today to encourage everybody, all of you, to apply for scholarships. And so one of the reasons for that is to be able to increase your stipend, first of all. So if you get a scholarship, it would be, you would have an addition to your stipend over your guaranteed level of funding, according to the policies at the Faculty of Grad Studies. So be aware of how receiving a scholarship will affect your overall stipend. Also, you should want to be able to be recognised for your graduate studies. So you want to be able to get that acknowledgement, and by receiving a scholarship, you will put yourself in a better position for future scholarships. And one of my messages for you today is that even if you don't receive that scholarship, I think and I believe that you are still putting yourself in a better position for when you apply for future scholarships. Because you think about where you are in your graduate program, what you require to obtain a scholarship, and how you're going to go about doing that. Also, by getting a scholarship to support your own guaranteed funding, you help out your supervisor, you help out the lab resources, and you help out your fellow graduate students, because then money can be available for them. So I'm encouraging everyone today to follow through and apply for scholarships if you're eligible for them. So how do we find out whether we're eligible for scholarships? Next slide, please, Kim. So where do we go to look for information? Well, I'm encouraging you to look at the first, at the Faculty of Graduate Studies awards page. So here on this awards page, this is the snapshot of what you'll see when you go to the Faculty of Grad Studies award page. We have all sorts of information on the many different types of scholarships that are available through internal sources, provincial sources, national sources. So you have both internal and external funding that is available, and on this website you will have information and terms of reference of those scholarships and whether you might be eligible for them or not. So if you look down the bottom of the slide there, you see that we have various steps. You have finding and applying for awards, what to do when you actually receive an award, how to manage your award, and then the policies and the regulations that are associated with that. So it's very important, I think, for all of you early on in your graduate studies to actually visit this website and identify which awards you might be eligible for, and then start working towards obtaining those scholarships.
Donna Marie, can I jump in and ask a quick question that one of our attendees has posed?
Sure, Dan.
Somebody is wondering, will we receive our stipend directly into our bank account, or will it go to our supervisor?
So the stipend, it should go straight to you, not through your supervisor. Are we talking about scholarships? I'm assuming we're talking about scholarships here. The scholarship should go directly to the graduate student, not through the supervisor. Does that answer the question?
I think so. It was worded as stipend, but I believe they were asking about a scholarship.
So yeah, if it's a stipend, it should also go directly to you, but that's a different process. Scholarships will go directly to the graduate student. Okay, so here we have in the Faculty of Graduate Studies awards page, we also have information about the Graduate Awards competition database. So the university has funds to support graduate students, and we have an annual competition called the Graduate Awards competition. We have a database available in order for you as graduate students to look up this database and identify whether you are eligible for awards and then be able to apply for them. So next slide, please. So here we have the snapshot of the database, the Graduate Awards competition database. And this is a very useful tool for you to be able to scan through the number of awards that we have available. There are awards through the university, and we also have awards through sponsors or donors. And there are a lot of different awards, and they all have their own terms of reference. But to be able to help you identify which ones you're eligible for, you can use this database and identify which degree program you're in, whether it's master's course-based, master's thesis-based, or doctoral, your citizenship, whether you're Canadian, permanent resident, or international student, your registration status, and by inputting your information at your time in program, and remember your time in program changes your status, so you have to keep going back and checking your eligibility, then this database will come up with potential awards that you are eligible for. And then it is up to you to go and look at those awards, the terms of reference, and identify for sure whether you're eligible, and then apply within the Graduate Awards competition. So there was a question earlier about master's course-based scholarships that were available, and I think it's going to be answered in the text, but there are a small amount of course-based master's awards that are available depending on the program that you're in. So you should check with your program or check with this Graduate Awards database to see if there are any that you might be eligible for. The other thing I'd like to point out here is that if you talk to your graduate program director or your supervisor, they also might be aware of program recommended awards or awards that students within your program normally apply for. Your supervisor might have a foundation, for example, that supports their type of research. And if you talk to your supervisor, he may have an expectation that you apply to those competitions through the foundations. So talk to your supervisor, talk to your graduate program director, and always check with the communication from Faculty of Grad Studies, this grad post, because that gives you the upcoming competitions and it gives you the deadlines in order to be able to apply for any types of funding. So it's very important that you don't ignore your grad post when it comes into your email box, that you actually read it and make sure that you are up to date on anything that you would like to apply for. Next slide, please.
Donna Marie, if I could jump in again just before you go on. We've got lots of questions coming in. One student has asked, I've understood that if I receive a scholarship, a portion may replace some department funding, for example, reduced TA work, while a portion will be given directly to me. Are these arrangements standard across grad studies or specific to the department?
So each program has its funding policy, but Faculty of Grad Studies have overseen those policies. So we guarantee from Faculty of Grad Studies that the graduate student should be in a better off position. What am I trying to say? Should be better off if they have received a scholarship. The program dictates the level of better off. So you will be better off, and some programs have their own regulations about what we mean by better off if you have received a scholarship. So check with your program and ensure that you understand what happens when you receive a scholarship, what happens to your guaranteed funding level. Okay. All right, so In order to be able to apply for scholarships, you should confirm, first of all, that you're eligible. We've discussed that. You should know the application requirements. So you should always go to the Faculty of Grad Studies awards site and or the awards websites for various funding opportunities and understand what's involved in the application. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. You need to follow the instructions. Sorry, Kim, just back one. You need to follow the instructions and you need to meet the deadline dates. Kim, sorry, if you could just forward, thank you. So in general, scholarships all require basically the same components, and the components are detailed here. So they will ask in a scholarship application for your academic history. Where did you do your degree? How long did it take to do the degree? What degree did you get? Those types of information, that type of information is asked for. As well, you will be asked to include your transcripts for your application. Scholarship and award history, that's also another section. If you've received any scholarships or awards, you have to put that in your application. You will also be required to submit some letters of reference. Normally it's 2, but depending on what you're applying for, it may be more. So you're asking for 2 letters of reference. Now, the reason I'm telling you all of these components is that you should actually start working on your scholarship applications as soon as you can. So if you know that you require 2 letters of reference, you should already be thinking about who should I ask for a letter of reference if I'm going to apply for the scholarship. And keep in contact with them. Give them information about how you're progressing, what you're doing now, what you intend to do, what your plans are, and could they possibly be a letter, a referee for you for scholarship applications. So keep in contact with people who have mentored you in the past or supervised you in the past, and make sure that you're always planning on the next scholarship application that you're eligible for. Also, within the application, you'll be asked to write an abstract or a proposal on what you're doing your research in. For those in the course-based that are eligible, you'll be asked for a statement of study. You'll be asked for a bibliography that goes along with that research proposal. You'll also be asked about presentations or contributions that you have made in your academic career. Some of you might be sitting there thinking, well, I haven't done anything yet. The point of me trying to tell you what's required is that you should try to work towards building your CV, building your resume so that you become competitive. Think about anything where you've contributed so that you can fill in your application. Also, you might be asked about any activities that you do which have clearly shown that you have had a leadership role, or show how you have some interpersonal skills that can be applied to your research or in your non-academic life. And also you'll be asked for allowable inclusions here. So the point of the slide is that if you have not come to graduate school already with a resume or a CV, you should start one now. You should think about including all of these and keep all of these items in that CV, and then make sure that you maintain your resume up to date. So by the time you come to find out that there's a scholarship that I'm eligible for, you have most of this information at hand, and it saves you time in the long run. Next slide, please. So how do you create a strong application? So you have to be prepared and you have to start early. That's a take-home message. Know what you're applying for. Know the criteria that you're going to be evaluated on, and that is all published for all of your funding that you may be applying for. So find out the criteria and make sure that you are addressing your application to the criteria that you should be assessed on. Follow the rules. Try to write to a broader audience. Not all of the reviewers or adjudicators of your application will be in your field. So try to learn to explain your area of research to a broader audience. Make sure you have defined research contributions, leadership experience, and other relevant information in that application. You may not think you have any of those things. So my advice is talk to your peers, talk to some mentors, and find out what you can put in to make it the strongest application possible. And also have your strong letters of reference. Make sure you ask for letters of reference early and give the criteria that you will be evaluated on to your referees so that they can address that in their letters. Next slide, please. So there is a lot of help available for you to apply for scholarships. First of all, you should get to know your graduate program administrator. Those individuals are up to date on deadlines and will be able to tell you what's coming up. You should also be able to talk to your graduate program director and supervisor, as stated previously, to see what opportunities are available. Remember, access the Faculty of Grad Studies website and check your grad post communications for the internal deadlines. The internal deadlines for applications are different normally from the final deadline for applications. So it's very important to make sure that you apply by the internal deadline. Also through the Faculty of Grad Studies, we have a scholarship team. We have a number of individuals, scholarship officers who are available to answer any questions that you have about your eligibility or criteria or anything that you would like to know the answer to. So please contact us and make sure that you are applying for what you should be. Through the scholarship office, we also host workshops. So for example, if it's the Canadian Graduate Studies scholarships that are upcoming, we have workshops for the CGS competitions. So again, check the Faculty of Grad Studies website for information on these workshops, and also GradPost for timing of it, and also attend the workshops because they are very useful for your scholarship application. And finally, on that slide, that point there, we have the Student Success Centre. This at the University of Calgary is a centre that helps you with writing, and you can have one-on-one meetings with individuals to go through, for example, your research proposal. Does it make sense? Is it written for a broader audience? You have these resources available to you should you want to use them. Next slide, please. So the take-home messages, there are lots of opportunities. Look out and make sure that do some research and check your eligibility and check the deadlines. Plan ahead, plan early, and the real take-home message is that everyone should be applying for something. There are many different types of awards, especially through the Graduate Awards competition, which are special awards that I think everybody should be able to put an application in for that competition. Okay, next slide, please. I think we're at the end here. I had one question I was going to answer that came in earlier. So let me just remind myself about that. Yes, so the question from earlier was that do we anticipate that funding and awards will keep pace with the university's growth through focus plan? So that plan is to increase graduate student numbers significantly over the next number of years, or will scholarships just become more competitive? And so we think that funding, as I've just alluded to, funding for scholarships comes through many different opportunities, from the program, from university level funding. You also have funding through provincial sources, national sources, and sometimes international sources. So the university's Growth Through Progress plan will include increased opportunities for internal scholarships. So our plan to increase the number of graduate students also has a plan associated with it to increase the number of scholarships there. However, many scholarship opportunities are external, so either provincial or national or other, and therefore they're influenced by the total number of graduate student applications from Alberta or from Canada. But you should be confident in the knowledge that you have advocates here at the Faculty of Grad Studies, at the university, and in your GSA who advocate to provincial and national funding sources to try and make sure that we have as much graduate funding available as possible. So I'm hopeful that we will still have a significant amount of scholarships moving forward. Okay, I hope I've answered all of the questions. Dan, are there any other questions?
Thanks, John.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Sorry, Jaya, I just saw this one come up. When in the month is the department funding paid to the student?
So, to the best of my knowledge, we'll find out for sure. There's no point in me speculating. Let me find out for sure and we'll get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great, thanks. I actually can throw an answer at that question. Donna Marie, thank you so much for taking us through funding and scholarships. This is really important information. I don't know any grad student who answers the question, would you like some more money, with the answer no. So I think this will be great for so many of us. The answer to the question is that students are either paid twice a month on the 10th or 25th. And for students who are paid once a month, they're paid on the 25th. So you just have to determine which one of those categories you fall into, and then you can know what to expect and how to budget accordingly. So thanks, Donna Marie. Again, that was great information. I'm just going to step into a host role for a moment here to transition us into a video from a student. I just want to let our students know that originally we had a 10-minute break planned for this time, but just looking at the time and wanting you to all be able to get on with your day and pick up the last session, we're going to go to a video, and then we're going to get right into the final session that I'm going to be really pleased to present with my colleague, Dr. Clifton Cunningham. So just sit tight through this video and we will be right back with you in a couple of minutes. Thanks a lot.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Voice and I'm a fifth-year PhD student in mathematics. My research areas are largely in category theory and arithmetic geometry, but as my shirt might say, I'm also interested in p-adic geometry as well. I'm also your FGS representative for the Research and Scholarship Committee. So that's cool too. If you have any questions about that, just shoot me an email. But I just wanted to welcome you guys to the University of Calgary and also to the Faculty of Graduate Studies. Welcome. So I might be a little biased. I've been here for a lot of years, but I think you've chosen a great school to come to. I've learned a lot while I'm here, and it's been an awesome experience. And I know for you guys as well that grad school is going to be awesome. It's going to be hard. You're doing cutting-edge research, and that's not easy, but it's going to be a fantastic experience. One thing that I would say that's helped me in my program and in what I'm doing is attending as many seminars and as conferences as I can get away with. When you attend conferences and what have you, you find that I found that that's where you make a lot of connections, you get to meet people, and you get to hear ideas that you wouldn't necessarily come up with yourself. And those ideas are often very helpful for bringing back to your own work and just trying in your own way. So that's the main advice I would give, is just try and talk to people, figure stuff out, and attend conferences if you can. But I'm sure you guys will figure it out for yourselves and figure out what works best for you. That's the ultimate thing. So in the meantime, welcome to the U of C. Once again, welcome to FGS, and have a great time with your experience and in your first semester here. Have a good one, everybody.
Great, thanks so much, Jeff. So just to give you a sense of what we're going to cover in this session, before I hand this over, we're going to talk to you about the topics, subtopics covered here to help you get set up for your best possible start with your supervisor.
Hi, I'm Clifton Cunningham, Associate Dean of Students here at the Faculty of Graduate Studies, and welcome to the session on working with your supervisor. Maybe more important than being the Associate Dean of Students, I'm Jeff Voice's supervisor. Jeff, you just saw wearing proudly the t-shirt of my graduate students working group. That's right, we have a collective t-shirt. Okay, slide please, Kim. Together with Jaya Dixit and Yan Zhang, and you've already met Jaya, of course, we form what's known as the student team at FGS. The student team is part of your support structure available to you as you work through your degree at the University of Calgary. We'll say more about exactly what the student team does as this presentation progresses. But our role at the university puts us in a position to offer advice about how to navigate what is almost certainly your most important working relationship for the next few years, and that is with your research supervisor. You've already met Jaya as our moderator today, but I'd like to give her a chance to introduce herself in this capacity. Jaya?
Thanks, Clifton. Yes, hi. So I'm Jaya Dixit. I mentioned a little bit earlier that I'm one of the graduate academic and international specialists in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. That is a huge and unwieldy title, and all it means is that I'm one of your graduate advisors. So in your faculty of registration, you all have advisors. There are two of us, Yan and myself, and our job is really to take appointment time with you that you can book, and we'll show you how later, and to help you anytime you have questions about navigating your relationship with your supervisor or dealing with any other exceptional circumstances that are impacting you academically. We really pride ourselves on taking good care of students, meeting you where you are, doing our best to help you get through the good times and the tough times. And today, we really pride ourselves on offering you a fun and we hope really engaging session. So we're in the home stretch here, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you through a poll a little bit later on, and also covering what I hope will be some really important and meaningful information.
Slide, please.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Clifton, I'm going to say one more thing before we move on.
Yeah.
I also want to mention that our second advisor, Yan Zhang, she is working really hard behind the scenes right now as a Q&A moderator. So while you don't see her here talking with us, please know that she's actually playing a really important role in welcoming you here today and getting you situated. She's just a really strong behind the scenes player, but she's very much here with us to welcome you and help onboard you into your academic year. Back to you, Clifton.
You just mentioned that you'd have a poll to look forward to. Well, you didn't have to wait long. Some of you have experience already, of course, conducting research and writing a thesis with a research supervisor. We saw actually an indication of that earlier, but some of you have not. So let's take a moment to find out where we are. Please complete the Zoom poll, which asks if you've ever worked with a research supervisor. Essentially, this question is asking if you've conducted research leading to a research document like a thesis, paper, report. The options, of course, are yes, no, or not sure. Aha, so 65% of you have. That's great. You'll have some experience about this. And hopefully some of the issues that we're about to talk about are familiar. Likely, if you are beginning as a graduate student here, you're beginning either as a master's student, in which case you may have done this as an undergraduate, or as a PhD student, in which case you've done it as a master's student. In both cases, the scale of the project is less in the sense that your PhD research project is significantly a more ambitious project generally. So slide, please, Kim. So I'd like to start by talking about how you should start this endeavor of working with your supervisor. I strongly recommend that you play an active role in setting the agenda with your supervisor. This means you should do all that you can to make sure your supervisor and you have discussions around these basic topics. And it's important for you to take steps to initiate these conversations before they become urgent issues. Let's start with coursework. Many programs begin with coursework. You're here in the thesis-based part of our presentation today, but even so, it is likely that you will begin your program, I should say, with coursework. If possible, the selection of your courses should be done in consultation with your supervisor so that they support your research project. You should also make efforts to seek out a research community. In some cases, this is your lab. In others, it's a less formal community, but you'll likely find other graduate students and postdoctoral researchers, for example, to be important resources. Ask your supervisor for guidance finding these people. In conversation, you may discover colleagues or your supervisor of your supervisor who may eventually become members of your supervisory committee. and you should do all you can to build a rich ecosystem for your graduate work. We've also heard the importance of scholarships, and I'll just mention that again, that it is your responsibility fundamentally to actively seek out scholarships. I'll add also that you could ask your supervisor for advice on how to find these opportunities. And you can also ask for guidance in preparing your application. Your work with your supervisor is fundamentally a form of collaboration, and formal research collaborations sometimes involve the exchange of intellectual property. And in some cases, this is formalized with a legal agreement. If so, it's very important that you make sure that you understand the scope of these agreements and ask for clarity. And importantly, take your time around this issue. You have rights in this matter, and you should make sure that you understand all of the issues and not feel pressured into signing anything that you don't understand or fully agree with. You may also have clear ideas about your thesis project. That's probably going to change. As your program and work progresses, the nature of ideas is that they tend to evolve. Let your research topic evolve through your conversations with your supervisor. It's important to be open and flexible. Next slide, please, Kim. Okay, so although I've just been discussing early conversations with your supervisor, you should keep in mind that your supervisor will likely play a role in your life over many years, often extending well beyond your graduate degree. Your supervisor will certainly evaluate your work and give you opportunities to reach a higher standard. It's up to you to take these opportunities. Given all of this, it's easy as a graduate student to fall into the psychological posture of employee. This would be a mistake. Try to think of your degree as your job, yes, and your supervisor as your mentor, not your boss. Your supervisor is your research advisor, advocate. Supervision is part of your supervisor's job, but it's not all. Slide, please, Kim. And to that end, it's useful to take a moment to put yourself in your supervisor's shoes. Supervisors generally have broad research agenda. They're in the business of ideas. And besides helping you to develop a killer thesis, they want your ideas, your perspective to enrich their work. Develop your own ideas, therefore, and bring them to the conversation. This will help your work, but it also signals to your supervisor that you can think on your own terms. That plays an important role in what happens after you finish your degree, when you move on to the next stage. Just to illustrate this, I'm a research mathematician, and while some of my graduate students have gone on to work as researchers in academia, some of my students work in national security and a wide range of industries. Even when they were working with me, though, their interests and talents played a role in their project and also pointed very clearly to their postgraduate careers. So bringing your ideas out into the open where they can grow will not only help your thesis work, your progress in your PhD or master's, but it can often directly inform what happens after you graduate. Next, please. Well, does COVID impact expectations and roles? Certainly, COVID affects almost every aspect of our lives, but it does not change the basic expectations of the student-supervisor relationship. This means you and your supervisor will need to adapt to the world as we find it without sacrificing the defining features of your graduate experience, especially as it pertains to your thesis. This requires all of us to be flexible and creative. And even as access to research expands, you're not required to be in a lab, creative space, or research field if you're not comfortable. Work with your supervisor to find ways to adapt. Again, referring to my own experience, my research group functions online using Zoom, Slack, GitHub, and socially distanced barbecues lately. Have a conversation with your supervisor about how you will work together that explicitly takes COVID into account. Next slide, please, Kim.
Clifton, can I just jump in with a question
Absolutely.
from one of our attendees?
Yeah.
This will be an interesting one for you.
Okay.
How do I balance between being too dependent on my supervisor and not having enough communication?
Well, if you feel that you need to balance those things, you're not having enough communication, essentially. So certainly you need to listen and take into account your supervisor's advice and evaluation of your ideas. But that takes place in the form of a conversation, and you should do everything you can. In fact, it's one of the guiding themes of this whole presentation. Do everything that you can to establish a honest and productive communication. as I say, this is one of the themes of this topic, but if you're having difficulties in this regard, if you feel you're not communicating effectively, reflect on everything that we've said here, of course, but you can also take that conversation to other people. You might want to talk about it with your graduate program director, and that is actually something that the student team can help with ultimately. If you feel you need the resources that we can provide in order to help with communication, that's what we're here for. Hope that answers the question.
I just want to add one thing, because this is such an excellent question for us to be hearing at the start of the term, when we're all just trying to figure out, like, how the heck does this work? You know, working with someone who is going to evaluate me, be my referee, you know, be a really critical part of my success in the next few years. And I want to say that at different points in your degree, you will be differently dependent on your supervisor. And I think it's really good to ask your supervisor the question, how often are we going to communicate and when will that change? So for example, I've heard a lot of students tell me that during the coursework stage of their program, let's just say the research is a little bit to the back burner. So for example, in the social sciences, there are many students for whom coursework is really the priority in the first year and maybe year and a half. And at that stage, of course, you're working with and meeting with your supervisor. But afterwards, when you're starting to develop a research proposal, the frequency of your meetings may increase, the volume of your communication may increase. So it's really good to get that roadmap ahead of time. You can ask your supervisor at the first conversation or, you know, one of the early conversations in your term, how often are we going to be meeting? Are there going to be times when we're going to be meeting more, meeting less? What does it look like for us to be in touch for you? And also know yourself. Are you someone who needs to stay in touch often so that you feel like you have some accountability? For some of us, we work better at a distance. I guess all of us are working at a distance, but for some of us, we work better when we're more frequently in touch. I know I'm that way. And for other people, we work better when we're a little bit less in touch. So it's really about finding the compromise and knowing that it is very fluid and it'll shift as you grow, as you change, as you and your supervisor get to know each other, and as your stage and degree program progresses.
That's exactly one of the themes that I wanted to talk about in this slide, in fact. As you start your relationship with your supervisor, you should probably start with the point of departure that it's a formal relationship. You want to form a healthy, professional, respectful relationship with your supervisor. For those of you who speak French, think of it as using vous instead of tu. Wait for the tutoyer moment. Clearly, my student-supervisor relationships are more informal than I'm suggesting, but getting there is a process. And that process always takes into account deep respect and proper conduct that you should provide and expect in return. Slide, please. Oh no, I think you want to say something about this too. Yeah.
I do. And I want to add, you know, I first want to say, you're wondering where I'm sitting right now. Like most of my colleagues, I'm mostly working remotely. But today I'm on campus because it's a special occasion. And I want to let you know that the room I'm sitting in right now is the advising space. It's ES 1010B. And Yan and I have met with hundreds of students in this room. And so on the basis of those hundreds of conversations and, you know, all of the problem solving magic that happens in this space, I want to tell you that the things you see on this slide, the realities, they really bear out in those conversations. We know that it's hard to negotiate with someone who you've just met. You don't know what you can negotiate. You don't know what kind of power you have. And maybe your supervisor's paying you. That adds a whole other layer to the power differential between you. Every relationship is different. One supervisor can have a really different rapport with two different students. So it's really important to just know what your situation is. Even if you're working with the same supervisor as someone else, it's going to look a little bit different for you. And there are going to be bumps in the road, and that's perfectly normal. For those of you who have ever known someone for 2 to 5 years, there's probably been a point at which maybe you disagreed, maybe you can see eye to eye, maybe there was a simple miscommunication. Expect that to happen here at some point. But the most important thing is that you can get through it. There are people here to help. And I saw 65% of you have noted that you've had a research supervisor. So whether or not you've had a research supervisor, if you've had a supervisor of any sort, whether it was someone you babysat for, a boss you had, you understand what it's like to work with someone who somewhat dictates the parameters of how you work together. But the next slide that we're going to go to in a sec is going to show us how you can claim some power in that relationship too. We're giving you a bit of a tricky message. We're telling you there's a power differential, but we're also telling you to be in the driver's seat. So how does that work? Mechanically, how do you do that? Let's go to the next slide and look at an example. So this wheel, this circle, I guess it's a cycle, this is what I'd call a best practice. And when I introduce this slide in workshops, a lot of students take a picture of this slide. And this presentation will be up for you to look at later. But if it's helpful for you, take a screenshot right now, okay? This is a great slide to commit to memory or commit to practice. And here's basically what it's saying. When you're working together with someone, it's really helpful to stay organized together in a way that's documented, in a way that's written. So really often students will have a question and they need to have a conversation to get to the answer. So when you have a question or a problem, let's use that as our starting point. You have a question. I have to do a lit review. How do I do that? Okay, I better talk to my supervisor because I'm a master's student. I've never done this. Not sure where to start. Email your supervisor and you tell them what you need help with. Hi, Clifton. Let's pretend Clifton's my supervisor. Hi, Clifton.
Hi.
I have to write a lit review. It's my first time. I'm not sure where to start. How long should it be? How in depth should it be? You know, when do you need to see it by? Do you think we could schedule some time together to work on it? And then Clifton can email me back and say, yeah, you know, I think this is a good thing for us to discuss, you know, either by email or by a Zoom chat or maybe even in person at a distance. And so we've got an agenda set. We know how we're meeting. We know what we're talking about. And when we meet, we're going to agree to something ultimately. We got to solve the problem, or we got to at least take a step forward from where we started. And that is something that's really important to put in writing. So when you agree to a plan and a deadline, let's just say Clifton says, you know, it's your first time. So as step one, I want you to create a reading list and I want you to make a deadline for when you're going to be finished. And then the next step is going to be that you're going to prepare, let's say, an annotated bibliography for me. I'd like to see that in 3 weeks. So I really quickly go to my computer and I jot down an email to Clifton. Hey, Clifton, thanks for the meeting today. We agreed to this action plan. You'll hear back from me in 3 weeks, and I'll report back if I have problems in the meantime. And you know what? Along the way, you might run into some problems again. And so you repeat this cycle every time you have a question or a problem. And so there are two important things about this. Number one, this is a way to exchange communication. Number two, keep things in writing. You get to set the agenda, or at least you get to co-create it. And that's the way that you can share that power, share that division of labor. And it's also a way for you, it almost creates, I often say to students, you know, I have a notebook here in front of me. I often say, like, I know a lot of people use laptops, like, have a book that you write things down in. And the ideas that don't fit for your thesis or your proposal, you might make a great manuscript, but have like a research diary or, you know, a way that really helps you stay organized so that in the end, when you flip back through that book, it will give you the roadmap of how you got from day one to defending your thesis. And I think Clifton will probably have a really good supervisor perspective on what this looks like. And actually, one last thing, when students run into problems, and believe it or not, problems of all kinds, even really severe conflict, this tends to be the most successful strategy to get things back on track. This is a way to resolve things like your supervisor giving you what we call flip-flopping feedback. Like, 1 week they told me this, but the next week they told me that. Okay, we'll start to put things in writing. So this tool, this cycle, this way of working together is a best practice for you to start on day one, but there's never a wrong time to start. And if you start to feel like the waters are getting muddy and you're not really sure what you're working on together, just get started doing this. So Clifton, can you tell us how this works? Like, in your experience, is this a good practice?
Absolutely. I think I'm going to go back to the fact that it's a cycle. It's certainly a process, and it begins, if you like, with the top left-hand corner, question or problem, but it also ends there. It's really important as graduate students that you're not disheartened by the inherently iterative nature of research. You'll likely have to go back to square one more than once. And in the reporting process that Jaya just described, you'll notice she said after the meeting, she would go back and write a little email saying, okay, here's what we discussed. You're going to hear from me in 3 weeks, and you're going to hear my results, my thoughts on this question. But in 3 weeks, you may discover that you actually misunderstood the question, or the question that you answered wasn't quite the question that was asked, or the question wasn't precise enough to be asked in a sufficiently precise form. This can be frustrating, but it's really part of the process. Starting with a question and returning to the question process is really key to thesis, but it's also really key to good communication. And I'm going to make that the topic of the next slide, Kim. So this process really clarifies, right, what you've understood and where you're trying to get to. And it's related to a question of trying to examine your own implicit assumptions and being willing to challenge them. So it's important that you ask questions, seek clarity, and you'll notice that that's built into the process, as Jay described it. But regular communication is key to moving forward on all of that. Now, we actually have what's called the FGS Student Supervisor Checklist, which provides a little tool that will help you with this. And I'm going to show it to you in just a moment, but we're gonna show you another cartoon in a moment, please, Kim.
So this language of shifting from assumptions to information, it actually comes from a lot of sort of training that we have on our team around conflict resolution. So students will often tell us that they feel like this is happening and they feel like that is happening. And those are really valid things to feel, whatever they're describing. But we want to shift you over from I feel or I think to being able to say, I know. And then we want to say, how do you know? So this cartoon I show every year at GradO, and I really love it because all it's really meant to convey is that every supervisor is really different. And we've covered that already, and I know we're a little short on time. So I'm gonna breeze through this comic and just say to you that you need to know the code of your supervisor. For me, my supervisor told me, when my door is half open, I'm here and you can come in. When my door is closed, just pretend I'm not here. It really means I'm unavailable. But to go back to the great question we got asked earlier about how do I balance, being independent and depending on my supervisor, the week before I submitted my own thesis, my supervisor told me, no matter what happens, no matter what's going on with my door, I'm here for you right now, and I'm gonna prioritize that. So if my door is closed, knock. So, not only did I get to know at the front end what it meant if she was around, if she wasn't around, how available she was to me, but I also started to understand that I could go back to that conversation at different points and ask if the symbols or the cues still meant the same thing. So this is not a quiz here, but this comic is just an example of, not being sure, and I've seen and experienced walking toward the door and sort of, creeping up to it and wondering if I should knock. I think we've all had that experience with a professor, an instructor, even our TAs. And so I just want to drive home the point that this is about knowing who you're working with and how you're working together. So if we can go to the next slide, thanks.
Yeah, clearly we're not going to go through this very ridiculously small text on this slide, but this is in fact the FGS Student Supervisor Checklist that I mentioned a moment ago. I just wanted to mention too that it's known as the Student Supervisor Memorandum of Understanding in some programs. The point here is get your hands on this and go through it with your supervisor. It's just meant to be a tool that will help you communicate effectively and establish good protocols around working together. Next slide, please, Kim. So I mentioned that it's constructive to put yourself in your supervisor's shoes. A successful working relationship is, of course, rooted in shared interests, and all too often this is something that we think about only at the beginning of the program. You should, of course, constantly go back to why you chose your supervisor and how you decided to apply to work with your supervisor. But focusing on shared goals and interests throughout your degree is essential to getting things done. And it also, remarkably, it helps when you're in trouble. If you find yourself getting off track and your relationship is hitting a rough patch, go back to those original questions. Well, how did I choose this supervisor? Why did I choose this supervisor? What do we have in common? And where can we both focus on? And generally, well, not generally, often this takes the form of publishing a paper or making a contribution to the field in some other form. Just remember to focus on shared interests, especially when things are difficult. Next slide, please, Kim. Okay, so I've talked about steps you can take to keep things working smoothly with your supervisor. And in a moment, Jaya will talk about some sources of conflict that we see as members of the student team appear again and again, and how you resolve them. But there are a few basic structural things that you're responsible for and that you should sort of keep in mind before we get to troubleshooting. You need to, of course, make sure your fees are in good standing. You need to do your best and ace all of your courses so that you have a solid 4.0 GPA. Okay, not always. And complete your annual progress report. It's an annual progress report, so do it annually. This may not be a familiar experience to you, but this form asks you to reflect on what you've done over the previous year, obviously, and make some plans for the upcoming year. You play a role in this report, and so does your supervisor, and so in fact does your graduate program director. And at the FGS, we see these things. They're an important record of how things are going, but they're also an important tool in helping keep things functioning. Next slide, please.
Yeah, before I speak to this slice of pizza on the slide, I'm just going to add, if you're wondering how you keep track of your annual progress, the answer is that wheel slide, that cycle slide we showed you earlier. So all those meetings and conversations you're documenting, they add up to all the progress you've made. So if you get started on that right now, come May or September, whenever your program does its annual progress reporting, you're going to have everything all lined up so that you can speak to what you accomplished every month and what's on the books for you in the coming year. So getting to this slide, are you wondering why we're looking at a slice of a whole pizza? And are some of you wondering why there's pepperoni or a pineapple on it? Okay, for those of you who aren't entirely familiar with some of the funny things about Canadian culture, a really big controversy in Canada is whether or not we should have pineapple on pizza. I know it shows up on Hawaiian pizzas and all kinds. This might not seem like a controversial topic, but you know what? For some people, it is. If pizza is something you feel really strongly about, you might have a passionate opinion about it. And you might be like me, you're pretty easygoing when it comes to pizza. What is this slide trying to convey? It's trying to convey that it's important to us to help you when it feels like things aren't going well. So if something feels like a big deal to you, if something isn't sitting right with you, if the way you're working together is feeling uneasy, or you're hitting up against a road bump that might not be a big deal to someone else, if it's a big deal to you, it's a big deal to us. And it's a big deal to your program director and all the other people who are here to help you. It's not to say that every problem is a big deal. It's just meant to say that when you come up against something that you're not sure what to do, or you're not sure how to approach, just come and see us. And in the next slide, I'm going to show you, we can actually go to the next slide right now, Kim, thank you. I'm going to tell you, based on conversations with 500 students, here are the top 5 sources of conflict that students run into with their supervisors. So if what you might encounter along the way doesn't perfectly fit this list, that's okay. The pizza slide is just meant to tell you that if it's a big deal to you and it feels difficult, or you have a strong opinion about what's going on, it's worth a conversation. So I'm gonna just breeze through these. I'm not gonna go into them in any depth, just in the interest of time. Sometimes you're working with people who have a really different style of personality than you. That can be tricky. There are ways we can get through that. Unclear expectations, something really easy to resolve with that cyclical model of working together, or other tools or techniques that we can offer you. Intellectual property or authorship issues, great thing to talk about at your checklist meeting. Be really clear about how many papers you might want to write together, or whether you want to bookmark that conversation for later on when you start to have more progress accumulated and you're ready to start thinking about writing papers together or separately. Lack of engagement. So this in particular, I want to highlight right now because many of us are distance working with supervisors or members of our research groups. If there's ever a point at which it's really hard for you to get a hold of your supervisor, that's something we need to offer you some help with and just help the two of you figure out how to get back on track. It's really normal for a supervisor not to answer your emails 24 hours later. It's also for some supervisors really normal not to answer your email for 1 or 2 days. So find out what's normal. And if something starts to stray outside of that, come see us, talk to your program director. If you can't get a hold of your supervisor, we'll help get to the bottom of it. And difficult circumstances. I just want to say that in 5 years of your lives, let's just say you're doing a PhD, 4 to 6 years, even in 2, a lot of you enrolled for this program maybe or applied for admission before we were in a global pandemic. And so life is already really different for you than it was when you signed up for this, right? circumstances are going to change and they're going to impact, and there are going to be times where you cruise and times where you don't. And when you're not, it's okay. We can figure it out. We can go step by step, and we can figure out what plan is going to work for you. So these are all things to talk to your supervisors about. And if you can't, if that's the source of the conflict, there are lots of people here to help. Next slide, please. So who can you talk to? Lots of people. You all have a program director. I would assign you with the homework today of Googling who that person is if you don't already know. And if your supervisor is your program director, it is totally appropriate and recommended that you ask your supervisor, hey, for me, who's going to be the acting program director? Who should I go to if I need to ask them program director questions? I can tell you that Clifton has been a supervisor and a program director concurrently. And like most supervisors in that situation, his own students were able to talk to someone else in a supervisory role. You can come see us in the Faculty of Graduate Studies. We may not be experts in your field, but we have a lot of experience helping students and supervisors work through conflict. Students can see me, and you know what? Faculty and supervisors and program directors can come talk to Clifton. We are like a 360 support system here so that everyone can get through conflict as smoothly as possible. The student ombuds is another office on campus or virtual campus. This is someone who sits at arm's length from all of us. A conversation with any of these people should be confidential, but if you want to talk to someone just outside of the system, Jeff Stronsky, our student ombuds, is just fantastic. And I know lots of students have had great experience working with him. And our colleagues in student wellness services, I can't say enough about them. Sometimes students come and see us when they need to have a first conversation about supervisor conflict, and what becomes so obvious is how stressful it is for them. So you know what, like, let's buddy up with another advisor. Let's deal with the stress of the situation and the situation itself. So you can talk to any of us about difficult circumstances. It doesn't matter where you go first, as long as you go somewhere. And if you want to get a hold of us, you can do so either by emailing us at grad.advisor@ucalgary.ca. We also have a webpage where you can find more information about booking an appointment with either Jan or I, and that is grad.ucalgary.ca/student-support. We offer available booking times, and we're meeting students via Zoom right now. So just know there are lots of people here to help, many of them skilled in different ways. And I'm going to turn it back over to Clifton to start giving us a bit of a wrap up here. Thanks.
Well, it's quite likely that the next time you see me is when I shake your hand at convocation. In some ways, that's actually the ideal outcome, because it should signal that your degree went smoothly. But if things get rough and you need assistance managing your supervisor, we'll meet again. The student team will help. That can mean Jaya, Jan, or me. In the meantime, there are a few things that you can focus on. As we've discussed, participate actively in your degree, document your progress, keep good records, think about what you need for success and ask for it, and focus on incremental, iterative progress, not perfection. Slide, please. In this section, we've talked about how to work productively with your supervisor and what to do if you have difficulties. But more generally, please remember, going back to the previous session, for example, apply for all funding that you can think of, participate actively in your degree again, and communicate in an open, respectful way with your supervisor and expect the same in return. And finally, don't hesitate to ask for help. I hope today has been helpful. Good luck in your program.
Thanks, Clifton. Just before we wrap up here, we have a small activity to offer you. And so if we can just go to the next slide here. If you want to, you know, the last part of GradO is really telling you, like, this is your community now. We're handing over the microphone to you to talk to each other and to start figuring out together as a community, like, how do we get through this? And also just how do we have fun? How do we start connecting? So I would really love if you could use the chat box in the next few minutes to just jot down 2 things that you learned today in any of the sessions that were useful, helpful, that you can't wait to try, and share those. That would be awesome. The last piece here that I really want to mention is that this grad orientation, our first time doing it as a virtual event, has required a tremendous amount of heavy lifting by a tremendous team. There is a whole command center over here at FGS of people working on the production side, and a lot of planning has gone into this. Thank you for bearing with us through some of the glitches along the way. We hope it's been pretty smooth. But You know, as part of turning this conversation over to our student community, I really want to give the last word to a really special graduate student. If we can get the slide here so I can introduce her. So Sava Nezik is a graduate student in the Workland School of Education. She's pursuing her a certificate program. She is a very seasoned educator, a teacher by training, kind of a creative genius. She has really been kind of at the heart of a lot of this content development today. And some of, well, she's been really one of the two key production managers. She's worked so closely with our FGS team. I can't thank her enough. And I think I'm hoping that this journey of working together with us while being a grad student at the same time really sets her up to deliver, take home the message of GradO today. So I'm gonna pass the mic over to Sava to wrap up GradO. Thank you all so much. We can't wait to see you online, hopefully eventually in person, and welcome to the University of Calgary.
Thanks, Jaya. As was mentioned, I'm a certificate student at the Faculty of Education with the intention, of course, of finishing a master's. I just started in July of this year, and my lurking in the background to help on the production side has been part of a GANT, or a non-teaching graduate assistant position. First of all, I want to thank you today for sticking it through. We have 200 people who are still attending, so thank you for making it through this entire session. Of course, it has been recorded. Keep an eye out in your email for how to access that recording, along with Grad Greet, which is a series of emails that help you understand how to get started in your first few months at the University of Calgary. Just on a personal note, having been here for and supported this work for a month, it's actually pretty cool to see how kind and knowledgeable and super well integrated all these groups are with each other. And so if you do have any questions and you're not sure where to start, you can probably reach out to just about any one of the groups that are listed, but maybe start with the Faculty of Graduate Studies so that you have a way of reaching out to them again. And again, thank you to everybody. There's been dozens of people who have helped out with this. And yeah, I'm glad that we were able to provide. Finally, thank you for your time. So if we can just go to the last slide, and good luck in your year. I'm now going to go on mute and say goodbye. Have a wonderful year. And if you see me, say hello. Bye.